The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. United and free. Marching with a purpose, we're taking it higher. Fighting through the struggle, igniting the fire. No more silence, we'll make the noise loud. Together in this battle, standing strong and proud. Injustice fades when courage aligns. Rise up together, break the confines. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. United and free. So rise up now, it's our time to shine. Together we'll write a new paradigm. You paradigm, you paradigm. Whoa, whoa. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. So rise up now, it's our time to shine. United and free. We'll write a new paradigm, new paradigm. United and free. United and free.
All right, what is up, guys? Justice is a process here, so I'm coming to you mobily. I'm out on the road, and I thought I wanted to speak to you guys about this trial that's going on. It's already started. We're a few minutes behind. I like to start it a little late, though. Had a little problem getting the stream up and running this time. I don't know what was going on with YouTube. I had a problem with my premiere today as well. But hopefully, we're going to double check everything. Let's make sure we're up live, and I see myself over here. I don't know if I do. Yes, I do. All right, excellent. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this trial, where we're at, get your opinion on it in the chat. So let me know in the chat what your guys' thoughts are if you watch this back, if you're watching this in the live or right now. Now, this is a subscriber-only chat. We're going to have some trials that are going to be like that because you subscribe to the channel, you get the opportunity to talk about the case. Now, of course we're going to still have streams that don't require you to be a subscriber, require no commitment whatsoever. And then we're going to also have members only chat trials. So be on the lookout. Certain trials will come up, certain things, certain commitments to the channel will get you certain things, and we want it to mean something. Now, as far as where this trial is at right now, 2 days in, right? We've had opening statements. We've had some witnesses come on. Now, I always find it interesting because, in my opinion, and I don't mean to be cold-hearted. Look, this is a horrible situation. People died. But that is not the issue, as hard as it is to understand this. That's not the issue, really, that's going on in this case. The only thing that's at issue in this case is, was he or was he not criminally insane at the moment that he made the decision to do this crime? So while I appreciate it being important that victims get the opportunity to come in and tell their story, discuss the scariness of the situation, when it's really in my opinion, it's always hard when I'm sitting here watching a case like this when I see the state be allowed to just parade witnesses on to discuss these things. Now, I understand they're going to try to get into some of the state's theories is arguing that some of his actions, some of the things he did, the ways he acted, show that he wasn't insane and shows that this was an intentional act. But I really don't believe, when you're looking at it, I don't look at it that way. I always find it funny how prosecutors love to cherry pick. They love to get it in a case like this, and they love to say, well, he did this and he did that, and we should have. No, listen, we're talking about what led him to walk into a supermarket and open fire on people, right? And I am hard pressed to believe that there isn't some issue with the mental thought processes of an individual that does that, just from the hindsight. And there was a time when I don't think many people would have had a problem thinking, yeah, this guy's got problems. And we would have been interested in exploring that and finding out how deep do those mental problems go. And the fact that he got obsessed with this, went in and did this. Now, totally different scenario if this guy, again, maybe his wife works there, maybe there's a business transaction that goes wrong and you open fire and you kill multiple people. That is a scenario where there is no criminal insanity. I mean, maybe you could argue an aspect of that because of the relationship, things that are going on. But in this case, this is a situation where there was no real purpose to the shooting besides he gets obsessed with this and decides, I want to go do this. And again, it's happening more and more across our nation, or at least we're hearing about it more and more. And people are doing this, and people are, why? What is making people decide, I want to go end my life, go spend the rest of my life in prison, and go shoot up a supermarket? What's going on in their life? What trauma have they experienced? And how do we deal with this person? And how do we deal with these people? Clearly, the idea of lock them up and throw away the key doesn't work. And how do we know it doesn't work? Because, my God, we've had this in Buffalo. We've had the movie shooting in Aurora. We have school shootings all the time. And yet here it's happening again and again and again. So the idea that we put on a big trial, lock them up, throw away the key, and send them to prison for life doesn't deter this type of behavior. And that's because we're not dealing with the aspect of how this should be dealt with. We have a mental health crisis going on in our country that is resulting in people acting out in this way. And until we decide we want to go in and try to figure it out and try to classify these people without the emotion of the victims getting involved, which I understand why they're upset. If it was one of my family members that got shot, I'd be very upset. But I'd also say to myself, and this is what I've also tried to impart in people, and this comes from my father, is the idea of like, okay, you've lost a loved one, or perhaps the loved one is a victim of some sort of violent crime. We want it to mean something. And if all you want it to mean is, hey, this person lost their life and we traded the individual that stood there and did this act, gets sent to prison, and what we represent is the most brutal punishment we could give this person, and that's it, we're done, we walk away. That doesn't make it better. What I would rather say is we take the moment to understand what happened, the person that stepped in and eliminated this life. And whether it's actually taking a life or making them a victim to where now you've traumatized them and you've eliminated the life they were living before, because now they're going to carry around that trauma. We want to figure out a way that the individual who did the crime lives in memoriam of their victim. And that's, and what I mean by that is they have a choice to do that, right? Which is why I've said life without parole is just, to me, a pointless punishment. The death penalty is a pointless punishment, okay? Because it says, well, there's no chance that this individual can figure out a meaningful way to contribute back to society in place of the person they took. And we need to have a justice system that gives that opportunity. Now, it's not a guarantee. I am for life sentences. So I want to be clear on that. I am absolutely for life sentences. But I am for the opportunity of the individual to work through whatever issues that brought them to the point that they committed the crime, to then be able to, in some capacity, and that doesn't mean that they're free ever. I mean, there are certain crimes where there should be state oversight at all aspects, even if they get the opportunity to live and enjoy some freedoms again. They should still have oversight in their life. That's why things like child abuse, child sexual crimes, and things of that nature, you know, we have to recognize that some of these people can't be cured. So you don't release them ever into society without observation. And again, involving the medical side in with the correctional side is something that should be happening. And we should be looking at the mental aspects of these things. And we should be looking at how we can provide treatment as well as punishment for a crime. And listen, anybody that wants to stay out there and say, oh, no, that's already happening, it isn't. It's woeful. It's terrible what's provided in a lot of correctional facilities. We create better criminals. We send them out and we have to live with them. And that's why in a crime like this, the reason why I'm going off on this in this particular case is because this is the ultimate in the idea of saying, okay, we have prosecutors that are sitting in court who are trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a normal person is going to walk in and just shoot up a supermarket. I I don't think that's true. I don't think normal people do that without some sort of mental health issue that's present. And really, to me, that's insane behavior. So to me, I believe it should be, you know, a designation of guilty by mental. I think there should be in this case, I think it really should be, instead of saying not guilty by reason of insanity, which creates kind of the wrong impression. I think it should be guilty by insanity or mental defect, or guilty. And those are the two verdicts. Or you could say not guilty. Obviously, they have the choice to prove that they didn't do it. But as far as saying not guilty by mental defect or by insanity, shouldn't exist. And I think if we eliminate it, if we reclassified it and made the jury realize, hey, listen, you're still finding them guilty of the crime because at the end of the day they did it, but they did it and they had a mental problem. And that doesn't release them from culpability. It doesn't release them from responsibility. It just changes the way they're punished. And it changes the opportunities that are in front of them. And it allows for them to be treated and serve a sentence that is also going to allow them to get the support that they need. And and on the other side of this, it allows society and states and police officers and mental health professionals to gain insight into these people, because we dangle the carrot. And that carrot is, if you participate and you allow us to help treat you and understand what was going on in your mind at the moment you made a decision to make such a catastrophic decision like was made in this case, we can take that information. It will help others at a very minimum, and it will also allow for us to help you and potentially put you in a position to one day enjoy some freedoms again, to one day hopefully take care of the mental problems that led you to make such a catastrophic issue, get those taken care of to a degree, and like I said, enjoy, contribute, go out and help, live in a different capacity than what you're living, as opposed to uh, locking him up, warehousing him, and treating him like any other criminal who just went out and said, hey, you know what? I decided today I got pissed off and I acted out of anger and I shot somebody. Or I went into my wife's, uh, um, work and shot up a grocery store, out of anger and killed 5 people. That's a totally different scenario than what this guy did, or what somebody would do, or a woman that goes in, and a woman or man could do it, but it's being done out of anger. Those crimes should be treated differently than what we're asking to be treated here, because I don't believe anyone that it can be credibly believed that somebody really is honestly going to be mentally normal to wake up and say, I'm going to go for no reason at all. I'm just going to go in and shoot this place up. It just doesn't make any sense. We're doing an injustice to ourselves. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts are on all of that. I haven't heard anything, in my opinion, at this point to even address the mental side of things, which is what we're here for in this case. I mean, I've heard a lot of things to inflame the jury to try to keep them, try to, make it clear how bad this was. And it is bad. But I've heard nothing at this point that would say, okay, this guy was not insane, or this guy was not having mental problems, and this guy was not criminally insane at the moment. I have, just simply because he did certain intentional acts, you can be insane and do these and do things. It does not, I think prosecutors sometimes cross up things and say, well, no, he has to just be blubbering and nuts and talking about, space aliens when he walks in there. That's not true, right? I mean, mentally insane is he believes for whatever reason in his mind, he's got to go do whatever he's doing. He's hearing voices. Something's telling him to go do it. He's not of sound mind. He's not of sound mental aptitude. He walks in, he takes steps, he does this, but he does it because he's not mentally right. But we'll see. Anyways, we'll see what happens. So today, perhaps we're going to get into that. I don't know. I know it's supposed to be a long trial. I'm told it's going to be at least 4 weeks. So we're going to be airing this trial every day until we get there. And like I said, I'll be coming in and out. So let me know your thoughts, guys. If you're a subscriber, chat. If not, put it in the comments of the video. Anybody can comment. Only subscribers can chat. Like I said, that's how that's going to go for this trial. But appreciate you all. And we're going to go ahead and get the trial started. So I'll see you in the courtroom.
Just depends on the deli at the time and what the needs are for that specific time, but it's cooking all the food that needs to be made or cleaning anything that needs to be cleaned for that day.
How long have you worked for King Soopers?
It's going on 6 years, almost 7 years, I would say.
And can you just kind of run through your career at King Soopers, where you started and how you progressed?
Yeah, I started back in 2018 as a customer service clerk, working the customer service desk, helping people with the returns. Quickly moved to click list or pickup, shopping for customers and helping them with their orders. Then I got promoted to a head clerk. And then pursuing my career, I decided that it would be a good move to transfer to assistant deli manager. And that's where I was at the time of the incident, was an assistant. And then I stepped away for a little bit and came back to Kroger and became a deli associate again.
So with respect to that initial period of time up to this incident, was all of your time with King Soopers at the Table Mesa store?
Yes.
If you could get a little closer to the mic,
Oh.
I see a few people straining in the back.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
So then at what point did you leave the Table Mesa store and go to the other store?
Somewhere around the beginning of 2023.
I want to direct your attention to March 22nd of 2021. At that point in time, your testimony is you were the assistant deli manager,
Yes, sir.
and were you working on that day?
Yes, sir.
What time did you come in on the 22nd of March?
12:30.
So same shift you're working currently,
Yes, sir.
what you refer to as the closing shift.
Yes, sir.
Talk about what you were doing between 12:30 and 2:30.
I was pretty much getting ready for the lunch to mid-evening rush, like between 4 and 2 o'clock is when we get, the people that are getting off work or getting out of school. So we get ready for that, getting chicken in the ovens, getting fried chicken ready, our 8-piece baked chicken. And then at the time before the new remodel, we also had a pizza bar. So getting pizzas in the oven for the hot bar side, and then making sure that the deli cut meat side, where people get their deli meats, they're all good to go on their sliced meats, their sliced cheeses. There's a program called Grab and Go where we slice meats and cheeses to a half pound or a full pound, and people can then just grab it from the case and leave. So, just making sure all of that is where it should be, and getting associates at the time out for breaks and lunches if they needed it.
With respect to, you mentioned a pizza bar, that's just like you have pre-cooked pizzas and they're just out and people can buy them by the slice, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's just like that. Buy them by the slice. On the rare occasion, some people buy the whole pizza. So it just depends.
Can people come in and order a particular type of pizza if they want something that's not on the bar? Can they just order a whole pizza from you guys?
Oh, yeah.
So you're getting ready for the lunch after school, early evening rush. Can you describe where you were at when this incident started?
Most of the time I spend on the hot bar side because that's when it's the busiest. So I was on the hot bar side, going over my ordering guide so that I was ordering the right stuff for the next shipment that we get our product in. And I was just kind of going through how much I needed to order in my head and stuff like that. So,
Judge, permission to publish what's been previously admitted as People's Exhibit 2?
You may.
On the screen behind you is what's been admitted into evidence as People's Exhibit 2. Should be an orange handle. You can extend that out. Can you just kind of describe generally the area of the deli and the setup of the area that you were working in the store?
yes. So normally I was right here on the hot bar side. If I remember correctly, this is the actual deli pizza bar area, and then these were the ovens. So I was right around here.
And you're indicating with the pointer the very upper left of the diagram on People's Exhibit 2?
Yes, very upper left over by the sushi hot exit door, emergency exit door over there is where it was.
What else is in that area of the store?
There's the as you can see, the bathrooms. Sorry, I shortened it. The restrooms are over here, and then there's a staircase above there that was for the servers and computer room, or not the computer room, but where we keep the records for like the cameras, that area, and then storage for Starbucks. So Starbucks would keep their cups, any products that they would need up above there. And then there was just the bathrooms, and then our back space where we kept products and deli chicken and stuff like that.
The area that you pointed to, is that it's actually labeled deli on the diagram? I can't see it from here.
Yes, so this whole is technically the deli, except for like this area was the sushi, and then it got to Starbucks. But this whole area right here is counted as the deli.
So the area in gray immediately to the right of the deli, kind of at the front of the store, that's sushi?
Yeah, that's considered the sushi bar.
And then immediately to the right of that would be what you've indicated as Starbucks.
Yes, right here.
So when you first realized that something was taking place, to the best of your ability, where were you standing and how were you positioned?
I was over here kind of by the pizza bar, and I believe this is supposed to be the food warmer where we keep our rotisserie chickens and 8-piece and stuff. And that's when I started noticing people walking around and looking out the window, and a group, 2 gentlemen taking cover, it looked like, or hiding. And I just wasn't sure at that time what was specifically going on.
Okay. Can you describe what window the people were looking out of that you saw?
Yes, there's a window over by the emergency exit door. Before COVID, we used to have tables and chairs where people could eat and hang out for a little bit. So this used to be like a dining area. And so there's a window over here, and then a free space for people to move around there.
And for purposes of the record, you're indicating the area in between the sushi bar and the deli.
Yes.
When you say people were moving around, can you describe how they were moving?
It was a little like a panic, but an unsurety of what to panic about is my recollection. It was a people just trying to figure out, almost like watching a car crash. Like you can't pull your eyes away from it, but you also don't want to get involved within the incident. And so it's people like kind of just realizing what's going on and the weight of it overcoming them.
You mentioned that you saw two gentlemen take cover, is the words you used. Where did that happen? And can you describe specifically what they did?
Yeah, they were by the hot warmer and they were looking out the window just like everybody else was at the time. And I don't know what made them do it at the time, but they started to hide at the very least or get down, but not in a scared way, just kind of like, hey, I should probably, be aware of my surroundings. And so that's what I took notice of. And then that's when I started seeing more people panic and move towards the other exits to this side of the building over here.
And you're indicating people were moving from the west
Towards the east side.
towards the east doors?
Yes.
What did you do?
When I noticed everything was happening, I started to take into account of what the main problem was, because it could have been anything in my head, from some accident in the parking lot taking place or a customer not, liking something. It just, I didn't want to assume the worst immediately. And then I saw customers running and being afraid, as they should have been, and stuff like that. And that's when it started to hit. And then I can't remember exactly what time I heard the gunfire, but I do know I started hearing gunfire around that 2:30, 2:33 mark.
Were you observing people looking out the window and kind of moving with uncertainty, and the two gentlemen that took cover, was all of that occurring before you heard anything?
Yes.
And then at some point, do you remember where you were at when you first heard what you said are gunshots?
Yes, I was still in the deli at the time, around the hot bar area, just around here, kind of panicking. When I started to hear the gunshots, the two associates that were on this side, I told them to go and hide or to get out. One of them went into the female restroom, and then the other one went up the stairs to the Starbucks storage area.
Could you tell where the shots were coming from that you heard?
No, honestly, at first I did not know where they were coming from.
So after you tell the two deli associates to hide, what do you do after that?
I honestly start taking in my bearings on where people are going, what's going on. There's the thought of getting on the phone that was in the deli and paging. And so I put out a page, active shooter, get out, active shooter. I went to the other side to check on Murray's Cheese, which is part of the deli, and my other two associates, and they weren't there. They already got out. At least that's what I thought.
When you say other side, what do you mean?
Just the other side of the deli. So instead of the hot bar side, I just walked around the corner to see if there was anybody over here, and I didn't see them. And so I assumed that they went out a different way. I just, and then when I realized, I don't know how far away this time-wise was, but then when I realized the gentleman entered the building, that's when I ran into the restroom to get Chelsea out, which was the associate that ran into the restroom, and started letting people get out through the bathroom, checking the men's restroom, checking the rest of the deli. When I did check the rest of the deli in the back, that's when I found Gabby and Jasper hiding and barricading themselves in. So I yelled and got them out, ran around to the exit side over here and ran out. And then I went back to the bathroom to double check to make sure.
Let me slow you down.
Yeah.
So you said Gabby and who?
Jasper.
And Jasper. Where were they located?
They were in this back room area. There's like another storage. It doesn't show it, but there's like two different rooms. One of them is our cold, where we keep like our cold chicken. And the other one is like our freezer where we keep frozen items. And they were in that freezer area hiding.
And are Gabby and Jasper employees as well?
Yes.
Do they work in the deli?
Not currently, but they did
at that time?
at the time. Yes.
So when you say you were getting people, you're getting Chelsea and Gabby and Jasper out of the bathroom in the back storage unit. Where are you taking them, or where are they going? How are they getting out of the building?
Oh, I'm taking them to this emergency exit over here, and that's where they're getting out. So Gabby, and Jasper went that way. Chelsea, I believe Chelsea went this way because she normally parked in the front. I'm not sure where Chelsea ran to once I got her out of the store.
And you're indicating a door on the north side of the building, front of King Supers, that would be between the sushi bar and the deli. And that is an emergency exit, so it's not normally something people could go in and out of?
No.
And I think that what you were indicating is Chelsea went to the left when she came out, which would be west, and then the other two went to the east when they got out the door.
Yes.
After getting those folks out, what happened?
I walked back inside just to honestly make sure no one else was stuck and double check the men's and women's restroom. And I went back in. There was another gentleman hiding, so I got him out. And as I was walking out, that's when I noticed a group of people. One of them being an elderly lady who happened to have fallen. I was not quite sure why she had fell, and so I kind of took it out of me because I didn't hear anything or see any gunfire, but she felt like she was shot. So when I walked up to her, I wasn't quite sure how she was in that area.
When you say she felt like she was shot, describe how she felt.
Just really hard, like, a very hard trip or a very hard shove. Like, someone truly pushed her and she lost her balance. But
Did she fall forward, backward, or something else?
she fell forward straight onto her front or face.
Where did she fall?
She fell, I would say right about here, in this general area in between the sushi and the bathroom and the entrance to the deli.
Kind of what you said prior to COVID was a dining area where people could eat at tables and chairs.
Exactly.
So after she goes down, what are you thinking when you see her go down?
I thought she had unfortunately passed away. I thought she was shot. I honestly wasn't sure what to think. Two different possibilities went through my head, that unfortunately she had lost her life or she was injured. So I knew I at least had to check on her.
Did you rush right to her?
Yes.
What were your concerns as you approached her?
She was somebody's grandma. That was my main thought. That's my grandma there. And so I picked her up. I wasn't really concerned about anything else, was just getting her out. When I knew that she was still breathing and still okay, that's when I definitely picked her up as hard as I could. She was, dead weight. She didn't have breath inside of her or the energy to pick herself back up. So I kind of just lifted her, luckily, and pulled her, helped her out to the exit door.
Which exit did you take her out of?
The same one right here. And then I walked her to, there's a little brick thing in the corner right here. And I walked her to there and handed her off to another customer. And that's when I ran back inside to help more people.
So you actually got her all the way outside the building before you gave her to somebody else to help her.
Yes.
Describe how you helped her up. Like what did you do? She's laying face down on the floor. You approach her. What exactly happens?
I pretty much grabbed her by the arm really hard and just yanked her. I thought I actually hurt her even more. I was so worried about that because I just really roughly grabbed her and almost felt like I was dragging her out of the door.
Were you able to get her kind of back to her feet at some point?
Yes, I was able to get her onto her feet. I was able to get her stumbling but walking out of the door and then out to another customer at the time.
Are you helping her get to the door and get outside?
Yes.
How are you helping her?
I just have her arm, in my arms, and I just have like most of her weight on me. And then I kind of just kick the door open, pretty much get her out the door, and then walk her what I felt was far enough, which was past this point where the wall ends or the store ends and where that concrete pillar, because right here is where more customers were, and they were either hiding or trying to get to their car, calling loved ones, and just getting away from the store.
Judge, can I approach?
Yes, sir.
21 through 24. Mr. Tatum, I've handed you what's been marked for identification as People's Exhibits 21 through 24. Do you recognize what those are?
Yes.
And what are they?
They are video recordings of the store behind sushi and next to the deli, right across from in between the restrooms and stuff, right around there.
They're still photographs of the video in that area of the store?
Yes.
And then their People's Exhibit 24 is actually still video, a still photograph from video in the back of the store?
Yes.
Are all of those exhibits, People's 21 through 24, fair and accurate representations of what was occurring on that day?
Yes.
Judge, I would move to admit People's 21 through 24.
No objection. They'll be admitted.
And Judge, I would ask for permission to publish.
You may publish.
People's Exhibit 21. Tell us what we're looking at, Mr. Tatum.
That is what we described earlier, being the sushi bar area. This was where the seating was before COVID, and then after COVID, we had to take that away. Back in the corner here, that's Starbucks, and then off to the side here is the deli. So this is that eating area, and then in the corner would be where the emergency exit door is.
And on the bottom side of the screen, the white-haired woman, this is how you saw her going down. It looks like in this still frame, she's still in the process of falling, about to hit the ground.
Yeah, she, as you can see, she looked like she was tackled or pushed or something as she is falling. So she fell really hard.
You mentioned you were concerned that she had been shot, but you didn't hear a shot at that time when she went down. Were you still hearing gunshots as you were going in and out with the people that you're getting out of the bathroom and the storage unit? Are there still shots taking place?
Yes.
Could you tell at that point where the shots were coming from?
At that point, they definitely moved from the west side to the far east side, over by where the pharmacy and the east side entrance was and all that. The specific location I could not.
But you could tell they were inside the store.
At that point, yes.
Is that different than when you first heard shots?
Yeah.
Where were the shots when you first heard them?
They didn't sound like they were coming from the west side. They just sounded like they were just coming somewhere near me, and I couldn't pinpoint exactly where. I just knew that they were outside. I just wasn't sure where exactly in the parking lot or near the store, or if they had came into the store from another point of entrance.
So you hear shots, it sounds like more to the west side, outside, west of the store, outside.
Yes.
And then at some point when the shots are inside, they sound like they're more to the east.
Yes.
So after the elderly woman goes down in People's 21, tell us what we're seeing at the very bottom of People's Exhibit 22.
That would be me right here in the white gray hoodie. That is my arm, and then that would be right here with my arm around her. I believe at this point I'm just telling her, like, you're okay, everything's gonna be okay, we're getting out, we're gonna be okay, and I'm just trying to comfort her because I can hear her crying and just being overwhelmed.
So she's crying. Anything else about her demeanor that you could tell us?
I could tell that she was hurt. Like I said, she fell hard. Our floors at the time are all concrete. So there's no soft padding. There's nothing bracing or breaking her fall at all. So she's just unconsolable, I feel, at this time.
How could you tell she was hurt?
She was holding her arm at that point. And so I could tell that the arm that I wasn't holding onto, she was holding close to her. Like if she hurt her shoulder or her elbow or something, I couldn't tell what specifically, but she was physically nursing her arm.
And at some point, did she start to, let me back up. You said when you initially started to get her up, it was like she didn't have breath in her,
Yes.
like the wind had been knocked out of her.
Yes.
At what point did it seem that she started to be able to breathe again?
Honestly, I'm not sure. It could have been before I handed her off. It could have been after I handed her off. She didn't seem well at all.
Okay. But you thought you observed her to be like crying somewhat or in a place of distress.
Yes.
And that was up to the point where you handed her off to somebody else.
Yes.
Moving to People's Exhibit 23, tell us what this photograph shows.
That is me, right there in the foreground, and then in the front that is Ree, and then this would be the exit door that I've mentioned before, getting people out through.
So this is right before you get her out of the building.
Yes.
And you've referred to her as Ree. Did you later learn who this elderly woman was?
Yes, I learned her first name was Ree, and that's just what we've known each other by. She calls me Chris, and I call her Ree, and that's just how our relationship has blossomed over the years.
At some point, you guys had contact after this when she was able to realize who you were?
Yes, she, I believe, got a hold of the victim's advocate, and they were able to get a hold of me, and then we were able to meet for breakfast and continue our, relationship.
You get Rhea up, you get her out of the building, you go back into the building again.
Yes.
Describe what happened when you went back in again.
A bit of panic over myself of kind of not knowing what's going on. It was in that decision of like, why am I in here? But also wanting to make sure people were okay, wanting to not leave anybody behind. And I didn't want to leave anybody in there. So I went back in to double check, to look for people and to just do one last look.
Where did you go?
I started looking around the deli. I started kind of just looking around produce, and that's when I noticed another associate who worked in the meat department, Andy, kind of frozen / not getting out of the store in the meat department. So he's behind the meat counter, running back and forth, just kind of not even trying to escape. He's just overly panicked at this point.
I put People's Exhibit 2 back up. Can you show us where you saw Andy when you came back into the store?
Yes. So I came back and I was right about here, and then through produce. So that bakery, meat department would be right here. This is bakery. So I saw Andy right around here in the meat department.
Can you describe with any more detail what he was doing?
He was like running back and forth between here and going into this area of the store, just either looking for a way out or a place to hide. He was on the phone. He was just panicking. He just didn't know what to do or where to go, which is reasonable.
What did you do when you saw Andy?
I then yelled, which probably wasn't the smartest thing, and then ran through produce to get to him, which is right about here.
Did you get to him?
Yes.
What happened at that point?
As I was on my way, this part I'm not quite sure of, but I thought I saw the suspect around here in bakery. We started talking as I'm trying to get him out and calm him down at the same time. And then another gunshot, which again, I'm not sure about, sounded like it ricocheted somewhere over here. And that's when we both ran through the coolers into the back room and then out through the trailer exit area where we found 2 more customers escaping as well.
Where were those 2 customers escaping?
They were on the outside back dock. There's a little metal dock area where we keep like store supplies just for the whole store. And they were trying to get down. There's like stairs right here next to this trailer area. There's stairs so people can get down and exit the building.
Can you describe what those folks look like?
It was a gentleman in his 20s, maybe 30s, and another elderly gentleman in his late 70s, I believe. He had a walker with him at the time.
Did you do anything to assist that gentleman?
Yes, I kind of grabbed his walker out of his hands, helped him down the stairs, and then I helped him to the other restaurants and stores that were in the over by Abo's Pizza and Snuffs, those clothing stores and stuff right over there.
Did you get Andy out of the store before you ran out of the store?
Yes and no. Andy, as I was helping the other customers, unfortunately ran into the one of the trailers that was hooked up to the dock at the time. And that's when I finally yelled at him, slammed on the trailer, and then he ran back out.
I want to back up to when you see Andy in the meat section and you're yelling at him. Does he run out of the building before you?
No, he follows me.
How many times did you go back into the building after getting people out?
I believe 4 times.
We could go to People's 24. Tell us what area this is and what we're seeing here.
This would be the meat department. I'm right here. I'm not sure where Andy is. I believe he's behind the pillar at the moment, but this is where the meat department. I saw Andy right about there, over on that side. And then that's when we went through this door after hearing the gunfire. So we went through that door, which is into the cooler, and then into the back freezer, and then out through the loading docks in the back.
You moved to the meat seafood section because you saw Andy kind of just frozen there.
Yes.
Is it possible that Andy exited before you got back there?
Possible, but I'm not quite sure. I don't believe he did.
Okay. Mr. Tatum, thank you. I have no further questions.
I have no questions for Mr. Tatum. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. You're excused and released from the subpoena. Thank you. You can leave those up there.
Oh.
Mr. Kuppner, I'll retrieve those and bring those.
Judge, the people would next call Paul Johnson.
Thank you.
Commissioner Roach, just do the-
Yes, sir, thanks.
Oh, yes.
Morning, Mr. Johnson. And to make your way on up here and go to your left when you get to Mr. Kuffner, and just keep winding your way around to your left till you get to the witness stand there. Place that water down. I'm going to swear you in before you grab a seat. Face me, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Please be seated and please get close to that microphone so everyone can hear.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, introduce yourself to the jury.
Hi, my name is Paul Johnson. I'm a former employee of King Supers.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's
Okay.
good. What do you do currently?
I'm a PhD student in mathematics.
What are you looking to do with your PhD in mathematics?
Research, hopefully, in infinite dimensional theory.
You've gone past me already. Infinite dimensional theory. Can you tell us what that is?
The related to the geometry of space-time and string theory, essentially, is looking at how if the universe is made of one-dimensional strings, how they collide and interact with each other geometrically.
Okay. Prior to starting your PhD program, what education did you have?
Undergraduate degree, I was a double major from Illinois at Illinois Wesleyan University, double major math and physics.
How did you end up in Boulder?
After I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my degree. My partner was pursuing a master's in CU Boulder, so I moved to be with her.
And that was the time period where you were working at King Supers?
Yeah, that was during the peak of the pandemic lockdowns, as there wasn't really other work in the private sector in physics and engineering that was hiring.
essential services like grocery stores had
Yeah.
openings.
Yeah.
How long did you work for King Soopers?
Oh gosh. Around a year, I want to say. I started in August, July or August 20. The years are fuzzy, 2020. And then after the shooting, I was done.
Describe kind of your progression or what positions you held while you were at King Soopers during that year.
Sure. I started in as the service desk as a customer service person. So largely fielding questions people had about products or the store policy, money transfer type stuff. Occasionally work at the gas station. Eventually promoted to head clerk. It's kind of a front end manager type position.
Okay. Tell us about that front end manager position. What do they call it?
Head clerk.
Head clerk.
Yeah. So in charge of fielding, give customers of questions. Where is something? Making sure everything is orderly, like the aisles are faced, employees are getting breaks on time is a prominent part of the job. Just knowing how to do everything on the front end of the store so that if anyone else has an issue, you can kind of step in and take care of it. Just keep things going smooth.
What does the aisles are faced mean?
Oh, that the all the products are like when you go to a store, the grocery store, and the products are like forward at the front of the aisles, and the labels facing you, and they're all kind of stacked. It's like people have to go through and reset that.
You pull it to the front of the shelf.
Yeah.
Okay. What were your duties on the date of the shooting?
Same thing, basically. It's again, you're kind of floating, doing whatever you need to do. If carts are out, you get carts. If people have issues with like a money transfer or with some kind of customer service thing that the desk can't handle, you're kind of the next level of escalation up. If there's any kind of medical emergency in the store, you can attend to that. So it's just kind of whatever you need to be doing. That day in particular, we were kind of on and off swamped. So it was like you go in and you open up another check stand and you just help check people out to smooth it out.
With respect to that day, do you remember what shift you were working?
Morning shift. So what is that? It's been a long time. It's like 8 in the morning to like 3:30, I believe. You open, I guess probably earlier, 7 to 3:30, but you open the store from the night crew, and then you get to leave before it's too late.
Okay. Talk about if there were other head clerks on duty that day.
Yes. I mean, there's a whole bunch of head clerks all day. I believe there were 3 of us at the time. I mean, there's different people who have the same job. Like, I forget the names of the positions, but some kind of like front end manager position that's not called head clerk, but does the same job essentially. So in terms of people who are doing what I was doing, there were maybe, I think, 3 of us on staff at the time. I believe there's one more person who had an even earlier shift who went home.
Who were the other people in that position doing the similar job that day?
Ricky Olds was one of those people. Julie, I can't think of her last name. And then I'm bad with names. I'm sorry. There was someone, I think Michael. He left, or I think he left around 1 though. I don't think he was there for the shooting.
Would it be Julie Keaton?
I think so. Yeah.
Were you or Ricky head clerks longer?
She was. I mean, she was not a head clerk. She had like a higher title. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe her position was a slightly higher title technically. And she had worked at other stores before. So I was very new to it. I had only been doing it for a few months.
So Ricky would have been in a position where she was kind of above the head clerks or doing similar jobs?
Doing the same job, but just a higher title. I'm not. I frankly, the distinction never really came up in terms of our duties.
Generally, what types of duties? You've mentioned some of them. What types of things were you responsible?
Money was a big one, all cash in the store and the registers, making sure that's transferred to the bank. And then when security people come by, like the armored truck, we give that over to them, count that. That's really the big one. I mean, again, largely, I feel like it was managing employees, making sure people go on to breaks or when employees have issues. Or not employees, when customers have issues, is like when I was working customer service, if someone was trying to send money to another country and the system would break down, that would be my cue to call a head clerk over. So it's like that is your like the service desk handles like cigarette sales and sorts of things. But if there's like someone might have a fake ID, anytime there's like a discrepancy, is the head clerk is kind of like the next level up to handle those sorts of things. But yeah, one of the big ones was handling the money.
So you mentioned it had been kind of slow, busy.
Yeah, as always.
A little before the shooting, did you get one of those rushes where it got a little busier?
I feel like, yeah, something like that. I mean, it was kind of on off. Yeah.
At some point prior to the shooting, did you agree to bag so one of the other head clerks could open a check stand?
that was right before. It was me, Ricky, and Julie. And we were starting to see some people come in and people needed to take breaks. Julie, I believe, needed to take her break. Like as head clerks, we get breaks too, and they're a bit harder to schedule in when we're trying to get everyone else off. So we kind of, we split up the work is that Julie opened a check stand. I was bagging for her. And then Ricky she did a thing we do periodically is collect all the money in the registers so that there's not that much in there. And that's kind of how we divided up the labor. And then that's what being a head clerk is it's like normally I don't bag stuff, but it's like, wow, there's nothing else to be doing. And this would speed stuff up so much.
So gets a little busier. Julie jumps on and opens the register and is checking. You're bagging for Julie.
Right.
You said Ricky's doing the money thing.
Yeah.
Describe what that entails.
You have like a little envelope and you just go register to register. And I think it's like a $200 limit, like when people pay with cash. Anything over that $200 limit, you want to get out of there in case there was a robbery or something. So you just start at one end and you walk to the other end and you put money into the envelope. It's not really super a pressing thing. It's like you kind of do it throughout the day.
So Ricky was moving from the west end, collecting the money from the registers to take it where?
To the behind the service desk. There's like a employee only room with a safe.
At some point, did an individual by the name of Denny Stong show up?
Yes.
Talk about when that happened.
Yes. So I'm going to be honest. Some of this is hard to recall. I mean, that was flashbacks. And so the details aren't as sharp as back then. But in my memory, that I was bagging. And again, bagging is one of those things that it can go slower if you're just kind of there to help speed the process up. So Denny would also be just kind of floating around sometimes. And we talk when it's slower, we all talk. And at one point, Ricky, Denny, and I were all just talking.
When you, Ricky, and Denny were talking, what was the discussion about?
I don't even remember. I think just maybe getting ready to leave for only a couple hours left. Like, what are you up to? This was directly before the shooting began.
Do you remember where you, Denny, and Ricky were at?
It would have been the check stand we were at where Julie was helping people. I believe it was check stand 11. It's on the, that's west, right? It would be on the right side. So I think that's to the west.
So further to the west.
Yeah.
Had Ricky left to go do the money before everything happened, or was she still with you in that conversation when everything started to happen?
I frankly can't. It's hard to remember. That is the hardest part of the whole thing to remember. In my memory, the shooting had started and we heard it muffled outside and we just weren't sure. We just were like, that's a weird noise. And, you know, and it's when you hear a weird noise, you try to rationalize it. So I think our rationalization is there'd been some leaks in the roof. So we're like, I wonder if they're doing some kind of work on the roof or something, like maybe like a nail. I mean, it wasn't the right sound, but it's like you don't expect to hear. So in my memory, we heard the first shots outside and then assumed it was nothing. And then Ricky started moving away to collect money from further registers. And only then did I hear something happen inside the store. That's my memory. It could be wrong because again, it kind of tried to bury that.
Well, it was traumatic.
Yeah.
And it was 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
When you say we thought they were working on the roof, was that something that you and Denny had a exchange about, or?
Yeah. Like, I wonder what that could be. Like, I mean, I think that was my suggestion. But I mean, no, we didn't really have time. It all happened kind of so fast.
So you hear these noises, you and Denny are like, they must be working on the roof, some kind of an exchange. And then what's the next thing that happens?
You hear the shot inside the store, and it's immediate. What's going on? I don't know. It's something that loud, and it was just like an immediate sense of run, like get out of here. So I ran. Julie was running. I ran down the check stand to the back of the store. That someone had already gotten the shipping door open, thankfully, and there was just like a line of people ran out the shipping door. Ran under a truck. We like physically ran. There's a big truck there. We ran underneath it, and then just basically the rest of the day is running. Like there's not a sense of what's going on, and just we need to keep getting away from here.
So when the shots inside the store started, you were still at the check stand?
Yeah.
Judge, permission to approach?
Yes, sir.
I've handed you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 29 for identification. Can you tell us what that is?
That's me. That's the check stand. I'm putting stuff in a bag. The black vest is the head clerk vest. That's how we were identified. A name tag. And it looks like Julie's already gone or something. I know that, again, it's hard to get a sense. I mean, honestly, it's possible that the conversation, it's fuzzy. It's like it kind of is now starting to come back to me.
Okay.
Frankly, is I'm pretty sure that I stopped the conversation with Ricky and Denny after we heard the first loud sound outside, and they both started walking away in the eastward direction.
Okay.
And then I went back to bagging. That's I think it wasn't like Ricky started walking away and Denny and I were still talking as we finished talking with both of them. And sorry, that like it literally wasn't in my brain until now. And then I went back to bagging, and then
You, Ricky, and Denny were all together having a conversation when the first shots outside happened?
Yeah, but they were muffled, you know, you didn't immediately feel like it. I mean, I think in your head, it's like, that's too loud to be other things, but you just don't expect a shooting to happen.
So you hear the sound, you have the conversation, Ricky and Denny walk to the east, and you go back to bagging?
Yeah, I think that's what happened, yeah.
And then would this People's Exhibit 29, would that be you around the time the shots inside started?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, at least.
Fair and accurate?
2:30:11, that sounds about right.
That's the timestamp on that photo?
Yeah.
Fair and accurate of you that day at the check stand?
Yeah.
Move to admit 29.
No objection.
Permission to publish?
Yes, sir.
So you've largely described, you have, looks like your left hand in a bag, placing an item in the bag. The direction that you've turned and are looking, would that be towards the east entrance?
Yes.
Is that where you first heard the shots?
Yes.
The first,
No. What I mean, from inside or outside the store?
Great clarification. Let's start outside the store. Where did they appear to be?
I couldn't tell you. I think that's part of why it was harder to identify the sound. I mean, like I've fired guns before, and this big metal store, the way that resonance changes the frequency of everything is like that was something when I first got hired. We had to do a shooting training, and pardon me. They tell you is like the shots will sound different inside a store, and it's incredibly true. I was not expecting how different. So from outside, I mean, in my memory, it sounded as if it was coming from the east, but again, I don't know how accurate that is. Once it was inside the store, it was incredibly clear where the sound came from. Which was in that direction. It was like so loud. It was incredibly clear. But from outside, I feel like since the store was acting as some kind of large resonator, it's like hard to tell.
So when you say it was entirely clear they were coming from that direction, what direction do you mean once they were inside the store?
To the east, to the entrance by the service desk.
What is the item on the end that is not in a bag, the big item? Can you tell what that is?
I can't. It looks like it could be. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what this is. It could be like a bag of, I don't know, charcoal or something. I'm not, frankly not. I don't remember what I was bagging.
Okay. So you had jumped ahead and you started to explain after you saw the shots. According to this, you turn, you look towards the east,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's the next thing you do?
In my memory, I immediately run straight to the back of the store. So in the direction of the computer, like if you look at where I am and you draw a line from my head to the computer down that aisle, just straight that direction, like as fast as I can. Like I think we were screaming, "Run!" me and Julie, and again, it was like I never saw really anything. It's the sound was like enough to communicate what was going on.
While you're running, do you hear additional shots?
Yeah, it's just bangs. I think so. I mean, again, it's like these are the parts that were at a time like preventing me from sleeping, and I've managed to make them a lot fuzzier as a defense mechanism. But in my memory, yeah, there are more shots.
And my apology for asking you to talk about things
Yeah.
you have tried very hard to forget.
Mm-hmm.
So you run direct route to the back of the store.
Mm-hmm.
What door do you go out?
There's a door there's like a whole area in the back of the store, which is like for stock, like extra stock and stuff. And people who do that kind of like produce people, there's like compost bins back there. There's a door to get there from the main store. There's like those like coolers in the back, and it's between like the dairy cooler and then I think a cooler with like sour cream or something in there. There's a big door to get to the back, and then from there to my right, which I guess is to the west, there's a big like trucks pull in and a big like sliding door opens up to let the truck dock with the store, and one of those was docked, and there's a little like door to the right of it that like you take a right, and then to the right of that there's a door that just opens to the outside, and that was open. And from what I understand on the news,
We can't talk about things we learned on the news or things other
sure,
people
okay,
told you.
okay.
What did you observe as you were going out that back door?
There's just lots of people. Like everyone was kind of running in that direction. It was incredibly frantic. I noticed like some like older people who are in the like mobile carts who are unable to move as fast. But those of us who were in the back, we were all like, it was just like a wave. You couldn't mentally stop yourself from moving. And as we went out, as people were just ducking under the truck to kind of keep running. And there was just a lot of confusion. I mean, there's a confusion and just a sense that we all have to get out of here.
About how many people did you see escaping in the back of the store?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like my estimate's going to be way off. In my mind, it's something like 30 people.
Okay.
But it's like in my memory though, it's like I was so like it was so heightened. It's just like you're part of this line of
Objection,
people.
Judge, no
Like
response.
There's an objection.
It's fine. I can move on, Judge.
Sustained, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, this incident had a significant impact on you.
yeah.
Where
Is
did you go after you got outside?
Um I went there's a hardware store in that parking lot. I kind of went, there's like a wall around it. I kind of went around that wall and there's a bush and there's another employee hiding in the bush and I kind of dove in that bush and we were both hiding for a while, just in like complete silence. Like it's a pretty big bush. And then we weren't really sure what to do or where to go. And then we saw some other people heading in that direction who had escaped the store and they're just screaming, run, run. So again, in this like fight or flight, you don't know if they're just like still reacting to being in the store or if they're being chased or followed by something. But in our mind, it was like, keep running, like whatever's going on, we have to get further away. So we just kind of kept running. I can, bad with cardinal directions, I could draw a map of exactly the route I took. Away from, there's the store, there's the hardware store kind of running this way. And then ran across the street, which was, that street doesn't really, that street is, if you know that street, there's pretty crazy traffic there. And we just kind of risked it because we wanted to get out of there. And then just proceeded to continue to run to North Boulder. Just
When you say to North Boulder, what do you mean?
I need to see a map of Boulder. I could track out my path. But I mean, like we just ran like a very long distance. Maybe I'm wrong about where exactly I ended up because, again, I wasn't really thinking about cardinal directions. I just know it was like a very long distance.
Mr. Johnson, what impact did this incident have on you?
Sure. Well, I have PTSD. I got diagnosed. Dr. Robinson, following the event, gave me a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was, I couldn't like go outside for a while. Like I had to be indoors. I mean, depends on how much detail you want. That's pretty clear in my mind. Like the first day, there was a sense of like, frankly, like intense like euphoria from realizing I didn't die. Like it was like an overwhelming feeling of like I should be dead, and also in the back of my head a knowledge of people I know are definitely dead and I don't know yet. So I need to enjoy the fact that I survived.
Not responsive. 403.
Sustained.
Judge, as to the impact, I think this is responsive.
As to the narrative, if you could break it down, please.
Tell us how the PTSD manifested itself in the days after.
Sure. Nightmares, inability to go indoor. When I could go outside, I couldn't go indoors anywhere. Out of fear, I wasn't able to really step foot indoors for, I feel like, a few months. Other than a place I was going for like mental health.
Judge, I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson is the attempt murder victim in count 16.
Mr. Dunn or Ms. Harrell?
Judge, no cross-examination.
All right, sir. You are excused.
Thank you.
And you're released from the subpoena.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Judge, I may need a minute to
Okay.
transition to the next witness. We're jumping a little bit.
That's fine. While she's doing that, do you want to grab the exhibit?
Yes, Judge, thank you.
you.
There's people would call Mark Subin.
Morning, sir. If you'll make your way up here, please. You're gonna go to your left, navigate your way towards this seat that's on my right. Straight around the front there. Thank you. If you'll face me before you have a seat, I'm gonna swear you in. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that in the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Please have a seat. That microphone will adjust and please get close to it so everyone can hear you.
Mr. Subin, when you're settled, can you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Sure, my name is Mark Subin, MarkSuban. I'm a FBI professional staff employee, and I'm assigned to Lab Division, which is at Quantico Marine Base, Virginia. And I'm assigned to the Operational Projects Unit.
The operational projects unit is something that's often referred to by the initials OPU.
Yes, sir.
So you're typically based out of Quantico in the lab. Describe what you do in your specific position.
Sure, I'm a scientific and professional photographer.
What does that mean?
Basically photograph crime scenes, making quality photographs for significant events such as crime scenes, agent-involved shootings, and we do site surveys for planning for emergency response.
Tell the jury how you first got started in the field of photography.
Sure. My photography career started in the U.S. Air Force, where I've been professionally trained in photography, videography, graphic design. I've also done multimedia and various other visual information related tasks.
How long were you in the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force 21 years. I retired.
And during that entire time, you were working and learning in the area of videography and photography?
Yes, also photojournalism, anything that was behind a camera or using a camera.
When you left the Air Force after 21 years, what did you do?
Yes, I worked at the Associated Press as a photo editor where I monitored and reviewed thousands and thousands of pictures for AP News using AP resources to make sure the stories and the photos matched.
And then from a work history standpoint, after working at AP, where did you go?
I was hired by Nikon, the camera company, where I provided professional support to photographers, education, created curriculum for consumers and professionals for Nikon School. And I made marketing materials and education materials for the products.
Did you, during the time you were at Nikon and since coming to the FBI in the lab, receive additional training?
Yes, after coming to the FBI, I've attended the evidence response team course, which is how to handle evidence and process it. I've also taken many other workshops and classes in multimedia to stay on top of the latest technology and software. And those include classes like at LinkedIn Learning.
Judge, I would move to have the court recognize Mr. Subin as an expert in photography and multimedia visual aids.
No voir dire, no objection.
All right, he will be qualified as an expert in those fields.
What's your proper title? Are you,
I'm a scientific and technical photographer.
that's long. I will just stay with Mr. Subin. I wanted to make sure that I shouldn't be calling you Agent Subin or
No,
something
I am
like that.
not. I'm a professional staff employee.
How did you first become involved in this case?
I was provided, well, first I was first deployed as the lab reconstruction shooting team. We work independent of the local FBI offices, which sends an ERT team to do the evidence collection. We deploy as a team to fully document the crime scene using advanced techniques.
So let's start with, you mentioned the local team, the ERT team, that's the evidence response team.
Yes.
What is their primary responsibility?
Their job is to collect evidence from the scene and fully document the scene and make sure that all collected items are properly logged, inventoried, and transported to secure facilities.
And those are local teams out of like the Denver office.
Yes.
With respect to the laboratory shooting reconstruction team or the LSRT that you were deployed as a part of, are they always deployed from Quantico where the lab is?
Yes.
Why is that?
All the resources for this type of operation are home based there, if you will. We have teams not only from my office, but we also have individuals who do the examination of trajectory. We also have individuals who travel for us, who keeps us safe and make sure that we can perform our jobs. And we work independently of the ERT team. The ERT team is there doing their job while we work in and around this group to collect the proper documentation for our purposes.
So you started to talk about some of the different positions, I think, on the LSRT, the lab shooting reconstruction team. With respect to that team, can you just run through like what types of people are the members of that team? Like what different roles are there on that team?
Sure, of course, I'm a photographer. We also have individuals who do 3D scanning. So they will come in and scan the scene. We do precision measurement. So if you've ever driven on the highway and you've seen the surveying equipment, so we use precision measurement tools to measure evidence in relationship to the space that the scene took place in. And we also have individuals who I work with to photograph their findings of any evidence of a skip, impact, or hole from some type of projectile or tool.
So this team that's doing the shooting reconstruction is really looking for any evidence of where projectiles passed through or bounced off of, or any location with evidentiary value to that determination.
Yes.
And then there are different parts of the team that are documenting the precise location of a hole or an impact, photographing the exact nature of that particular defect. Each team member is doing their own unique little part.
Yes.
And then at the end, the person working on the trajectory takes all of that information, including your photographs, the laser measurements and scans, and puts it all together to make determinations where they can with respect to the trajectory of rounds fired.
Yes.
You were on scene as part of that LSRT from March 23rd through March 29th, processing this crime scene.
Yes.
Why did it take almost a week for the team that you were on to process this scene?
Well, as you can imagine, this is a large location, so we work because the scene is quite large. We have to make sure that we are working not only in conjunction with the ERT team, but my method obviously takes time. 3D scanning takes time. Measurements take time. So it's a kind of a dance, if you will, an organized dance to make sure I'm not in somebody's scan, somebody's not in my.
Are you comfortable talking about the difference between the scans that I think you're referring to, like a laser scanner with Faro, and the 360 spherical photography?
Yes.
Okay. Explain those two things to the jury.
Sure. 3D scanning is basically a device that sits on a tripod and it scans the room. It scans in a 360 circle, and its intention is to, if you've ever seen video games or any movies, they do a 3D scanning of that to make a 3D model in the computer. So the data collected from a Faro scanner is a 3D scan of the environment that it's in, and then the computer later makes it into a digital mesh or graphic that can be manipulated in the computer so you can freely move around any point in time. The 360 photography, if you're familiar with Street View, you can drop a pin on a map and then you can click that pin and then you're suddenly in this location as a photo. But unlike a regular picture, the 360 photo allows you to move around freely so you can, look around. You can zoom in some cases, you can click another location and then you're transported virtually to that location and you can look around. Similar to a house tour if you're looking for a house online or doing a vacation trip. We create that type of content for major crime scenes.
And just to be clear, the first Faro scan that you talk about, that's not a picture driven. It's more of it's a laser measurement system where it's spinning and bouncing a laser off of everything in the room in order to create the image.
Yes.
So you were here working the scene as a photographer with the specialized unit for about a week. Did your involvement in this case end at that point?
No.
What were you asked to do after you returned back to your lab?
I was asked to review camera video from the store, body-worn camera, and any other video, maybe from exterior of the building, and possibly put together a timeline, if you will, a visual reference that shows the activity over time on a map.
Long process, but kind of describe how it starts with all the video that was collected on scene from King Soopers and all the other sources. Where does it go first before it comes to you?
Before it comes to me, we have another unit who specializes in taking that data. These cameras that capture this video use a special format for security reasons, and then it's recorded on some type of device. We have an organization called Operational Technology Unit, OTD, division, I believe it is. They take that data and they take it off that device, and then they make it into a format that I can use for video editing. My format is different than what those cameras can create.
So they're trying to remove it from that proprietary software that you said is for security. Describe why they would use proprietary software in order to have surveillance video.
I'm not an expert in that area. I just know that it is taken off this device that I cannot use. The video format is not usable to me, so it has to be translated into a format that I can use to put together this story.
Okay. So they sift through in a different division all the video and convert it into a format that is then usable by you, not having to deal with the proprietary viewer.
Yes.
In this particular case, can you give us an estimate on the amount of video that you were provided after that first division went through it?
Sure. As you can imagine, it's a full day, so the video runs continuously. So the unit basically takes the video that was in the approximate, I guess, within the window of the scene, and then they take that data out and they provide that to me as converted files. So they basically take the full video and slice out just the time of interest, if you will.
Do you have any idea how many videos?
Approximately 80 different clips, if you will.
And then throughout the process, as you continued to build your product out, did you learn that there was some video they didn't provide to you from that division, like the overhead HD of all of the check stands?
Yes.
And then you were provided that video at a later date to incorporate into your product?
Yes.
So we're talking about a significant amount of video that you were handed and asked to process.
Yes.
Tell the jury what the first thing you...
Sure. I think we've all made videos on our phone. So you have a video on your phone that's from one point to another, we'll say 1 minute. This video that is captured on these devices in your convenience stores or gas stations, those videos have, the video cameras specifically have a motion detector on them. So if you can imagine, if you were to record all day video, that would be a tremendous amount of information. So to minimize the amount of data that has to be recorded, because there's limited space for these videos to live on, if you will. These cameras have a motion detector on them, and these motion detectors basically change how often the camera takes a picture. So if there's no motion, there's less pictures. So there's no reason to take, 10 minutes of video if there's nothing happening in the video. So that video that time is compressed by taking less pictures. But when there's motion, if somebody or something disrupts that motion detector, the camera starts recording at normal speed. So when I receive the videos, the video, we'll just say 1 hour of video for me was really maybe 2 hours of video of content captured. So when there's no motion, the video runs fast. And you can tell by looking at the clock, each video has a little timestamp on it. That timestamp runs fast when there's no motion. When there's motion, the timestamp runs 1 second for 1 second. So the issue is each camera with its own unique motion detector has a different speeds throughout the time. So if an aisle has nobody on it or a driveway has nobody on it, that video just runs faster. When there's something that's in the frame, then it runs real time. So what happens is that in 1 hour video, you have these chunks of time that change. The problem is if I try to line up all these videos from different cameras with this type of technology, then there's a time mismatch and it's really difficult to try to make a certain video align with another because the clocks run differently. So I had to put all the video in real time, meaning the videos that were running fast, I used the word stretch, but in the editing software, the video's still there, but it makes the clock run real time as opposed to running fast. So what I end up with, if I want an hour's or 2 hours worth of video, I get 2 hours of video. I don't get 1 hour compressed or 2 hours compressed into 1 hour.
Now, just to be clear, when you're going through this process, you're not adding anything or taking anything out of the video.
No, I'm actually working from the source video. Video editing software is kind of magic in the fact that it looks at the original content, but you're not, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but you are adjusting what you need to make the edits in, but it's always looking at the original video. So the original video never changed. What I created was a timeline that ran 1 minute for 1 minute, no matter where it was in the video.
Let me give it a shot and see if I'm understanding it right. A video is nothing but a series of pictures,
Yes.
correct? And depending on how frequently those pictures are taken, you get this frame rate where it can either be real time that's going very fast. And so you're only taking a picture less often, and that's to save space.
Yes.
When you do what you do to try and put them all on one time system, one universal, when you say real time, you're talking like 1 second equals 1 second.
Yes.
1 second on the video equals 1 second in real time.
Yes.
What you do is you just have a photo in that video stay on the frame for a period of time until the next photo is taken?
Yes. The computer, it makes, the computer knows that it's supposed to have 30 frames, but there's only 5 frames to work with. So some of the frames tend to overlap, if you will.
But again, you're not taking anything out or adding anything. It's the original video. It's just putting it onto a time system so that you can compare any point in time on any video and get to the same place on all the videos.
Yes.
How long did that process take?
Takes a long time. I have to review all the videos. I have to find the segments where this time mismatch is due to the clock running fast in parts where there's no motion, to areas that has regular video with people or individuals or objects moving and the clock's running 1 second for 1 second. So it varies in different video clips. Each clip, there were some clips where there's a lot of motion, so I did less of it there, but I still had to find the gaps to, the goal was to put everything in real time. To answer your question, it probably took me 8 months to do that because the pure volume of videos, but I also have to put that in with my other task as my job.
So you take all of this video and you get it all on a standardized, universal, all the times match now.
Yes.
what is the next thing that you start to work on, or what are you looking to build from that?
Sure. The original objective is to put together a map, if you will, that shows where people, objects are in any period of that time. In order to do that, they make software to do this, to make a map. So we watch TV in a screen that's either 1080 or 4K. So I made a map that was bigger than that and gave it a time. So I gave it 1 hour time. So the purpose of making the map bigger than the videos, and I can move the map, meaning that if I need to show a particular place, I can move the map to that place, or I can zoom the map to make it where I can see more of the map, or I can zoom in closer to see a specific point in time. So once I have the animation timeline built, I can now give it time code. And if I give it time code and the video has a physical time code written into the video, I made a digital time code as well. So that allows me to move to any specific time. If somebody asks, hey, what's happening at this time? I go find it in the animation, move the animation playhead to that point, find the video, find that point in time, and then put my reference points on the map to match what I visually located on the video, and it's approximate.
So when you say so you're looking at a particular point in time and you're putting your reference points on there, you actually are placing markers within your graphic map. What type of markers were you asked to put on your map in this case?
So in order to map where individuals or objects are, you have to give it a label. So I use dot references to do that, to represent individuals. I use a color coding to individualize what type of dot you're looking at. And then I use labels to identify what the dot represents.
So what you described initially, pretty simple, of you look at all these videos and you determine that this particular individual is at this location on the map based on all these videos showing them there, and you put them on the map.
Yes.
Product you created actually has the ability to show their movement on the map. Describe how you used all of the videos and the various places that people were located in order to create that movement.
Sure. After all the videos are in the same time, it has a digital time stamp in it that matches the clock. So if you see a number in the clock, I have a digital number I can search. So when I was presented the opportunity to find an individual, I find that individual in the video and I gave them a label on the map and I indicate that time. So I find where that individual moves through other videos. So it might be one or more video. If they went from, say, a doorway to another doorway, 2 minutes later, I go 2 minutes later and I find that video until I can clearly identify them based on the description provided to me to identify this individual. I move the dot to this location in the animation. And because the animation has a timeline as well, I move its position to the same time of where the person appears 2 minutes later. The computer then, it's called animation tweening, if you will. It makes up the frames that will move the dot from one point to the other. Now, where the dot moves as a straight line normally, I can bend that curve to prevent the collision of a dot into a wall, for example. Obviously, we don't walk through walls, neither should the dot, so I made it animate around the wall, for example.
In this case, there was a massive amount of video from the vast majority of locations in the store, correct?
Yes.
So you were able to place your dots with some precision. You didn't have to like place a dot here and then a mile away was the next time you saw it on video. It was more, you would see the person on video and then they might move to here on a different video, or be picked up on a different camera angle. And so the computer would help you generate, if it wasn't on video, from this point to this point, how I got here with the time frame it took me to get here.
Yes.
And based on all of the information, you were able to create an accurate representation of where all the individuals that we were interested in were on your map and their movements.
I would say approximate, because I don't, there's variance in the time of the cameras themselves. You know, people walk at different paces. I'm not an expert on, strides. Basically, it's an approximation.
And well, let's use an example. There are some locations in the store where there are not cameras.
Yes,
Some locations that the defendant went in the store that just weren't covered by any camera out of all the cameras available.
yes,
And so at that point, you would see him on camera before he entered one of those like blank zones. And you could put him there, correct?
repeat the question, please.
So you would see him on a camera immediately before entering an area where there was no video coverage in the store.
Yes,
And then there's no video coverage, but he comes out on this side where there is coverage again. You were able to place him there.
yes, but I would use the time code as that reference. If he moved from here to here, and it's say 10 seconds, the computer makes that difference up. It appears to be approximated a 10-second move.
But the point is, there wasn't video in this section because there's no cameras covering it. But you're looking at everything to make sure it makes sense. Like, I couldn't have gotten from here to over here in like half a second, right?
Yes,
So you're looking at it to see, there may be a small window where there's not video in a particular area, but does it make sense when somebody is on camera, goes off camera and comes back on camera?
yes,
And then by that, you're able to create the product that you did showing the movement in the locations.
yes.
Judge, if I could approach.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Subin, I've handed you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 30 for identification. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, that is a thumb drive which contains the final results of my efforts.
And you made a massive product and then ultimately worked to take the sections that needed to be shown to the jury here and put them into PowerPoint or put them into a format that they could be put into PowerPoint slides.
Yes,
Is everything on People's Exhibit 30 fair and accurate representations of your work, both with respect to the video and the graphic animations?
yes, I reviewed it this morning
And you reviewed it this morning on that thumb drive. How?
on a computer provided by your office.
Did you do anything to the thumb drive to let you know that was the same thumb drive you looked at?
I initialed it.
Judge, I would move to admit into evidence People's Exhibit 30.
Do either of you wish to voir dire?
Judge, no voir dire, no objection.
All right, thank you. It's admitted.
And permission to publish, Your Honor.
I think if why don't we take our morning break? It's been about an hour and a half. Okay. So let me go through the admonition. We're going to have our recess for the morning, reminding you that until the trial is completed, you must not discuss this case with anyone by any means, includes members of your family, people involved in the trial, other jurors, or anyone else. If someone approaches you and tries to discuss the trial with you, let me know about it immediately. Don't read or listen to any news reports. Don't consult any outside references. Don't look at the internet. All right, we'll bring the jury in. Mr. Subin, if you could move that mic actually a little bit to your right, it'll pick you up a bit better when you turn to the jury. Thank you. Perfect.
Your Honor.
Investigator Cantu is going to be the next witness. When she testifies, we're not going to want the exhibit broadcast over the live stream.
All right, please be seated. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Kuffner.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Subin, we were just starting to publish People's Exhibit 30. And just to be clear, People's Exhibit 30 actually contains 89 slides, PowerPoint slides, correct?
Yes,
And this is something that you assisted in creating so that instead of watching however many hours of video 80 cameras would generate over an hour incident or so, potentially hundreds of hours of video. It's something that you have distilled down into these 89 slides with your product.
yes.
Judge, if we could put up the screens. All right, Mr. Subin, can we just start with, there's actually an orange handled pointer there, if it would be of assistance. And just describe what this first slide in People's Exhibit 30 is.
Sure. This slide basically is the end product of all the effort. It comprises of a graphic file on the left. This is that large file that I told you I created. It's an illustration that's based on scan data from our unit. Was presented this as the map to use. On the right side, you will see video. The video itself, this video here is from across the street. And to assist in attributing that camera angle's view, I put a kind of a very light area, if you will, that shows the approximate angle of that camera's view, meaning that the edge of the frame goes to the edge of the building approximately in that location. So as the video plays and the camera view changes on the right, you'll see those little triangles, polygons, and squares change locations. Depending on how close you are to the map, you'll see it in more detail than you do others. But that's what this video product comprises of. The top left has this time code that we talked about. So this is the time code for the graphic file itself. So as the video progresses in time, that clock will count up. That will be pretty close within a margin of error because of the cameras that were used. They will be in sync with the video time code as well. So if we go to a moment in time and we look at something, that clock on the top left will match the video file clock as well.
And your real time, the time that you have created, your universal timestamp for all the videos and your graphic, that is when it says 14/24/30/00 for non-military, non-law enforcement. We're talking about 2:24 and 30 seconds on the afternoon of March 22nd, 2021.
Yes,
So this is about a little less than 5 minutes before the incident begins. And this is where you started with the presentation.
yes.
I'm going to start to play this and then probably pause it and have you talk about a few things. So we see in the video a black car turning into the lot. It has a white circle around it. Tell the jury what the white circle means.
Sure. In this particular moment, the white circle will illustrate the defendant's movement throughout the video.
And with respect to the orientation shading on your map, can you tell us where this particular camera is that the video that's showing on the right, where that camera is located?
Yes, what you're looking at is this mild triangle, if you will, this shaded area is the approximate angle of view of this camera. And this camera is located, I believe that is the east entrance, just above its doorway. This camera moves. So as the camera moves here, that triangle will also move to show its area coverage.
So anytime we're trying to figure out where the video is from or what camera the video is from, when the video is playing on the right, we can look to the left on the map and it will give us an approximation of where that camera is covering.
Yes.
So I'm going to pause it again. We now have a red circle with nothing in it moving down the aisle in the parking lot at King Soopers. Tell the jury about that red circle with nothing in it.
As mentioned earlier, I use the videos to determine where any individual is in time. So where the circle was white, I can clearly see the individual. That was the last moment of time I can see it. And then the next time I could see it is later in time. The red circle here represents a moment in time that the camera did not capture any information. So this is a still frame from some moment after the vehicle disappeared in the frame. I don't know where this video frame came from, but it's just a part of the video process of the file I received. So the flyout circle you have here is just a magnification of its approximate location in this moment of time. So to help illustrate these frames of this type, I used a red circle to approximate that location based on video where I can see the individual and the video where maybe where the last moment I saw him to the next moment I see him again.
So with respect to the blow up circle underneath the video, it has a fuchsia colored marker on it. What does that denote?
That fuchsia color represents the defendant.
Now, as I continue to play this, you will see the vehicle miraculously appear traveling in the area where the red circle is now. Just if you can just explain exactly how that happens, where there's no vehicle there and it's a red circle, and then it turns to a white circle and the black Mercedes appears.
So the white circle is basically representing the moment that the video has seen the car. I cannot explain why there is a missing frame. That frame is just part of the video file I received, but it was stretched as part of that process I explained earlier to accommodate the clock moving in real time.
So this would be perhaps a good example of the camera across the street, wherever there needed to be motion to trigger that camera to go to that real-time recording isn't triggered during this initial period. And so we just have a picture, I guess, or a frame where it's frozen, where it's taken that before the vehicle moves into position and it holds that. And then once it takes the next picture, the vehicle is further down than further down the aisle.
Yes.
So we've seen the fuchsia dot move into the location where the black vehicle is parked. And next to it, there is a white van. That white van has an orange marker in the area that would represent the driver's seat. Tell the jury what that means.
Yes, in this instance, the orange dot represents an individual that you have identified, the DA's office identified to me as one of the victims who will be shot.
Now, during this time period, the defendant remains in the vehicle for right around 5 minutes, approximately 5 minutes. And these are just videos that you have shown, indicating again on your map where the cameras are located, of what's going on in the store while he's sitting in the vehicle in the parking lot, correct?
Yes,
This is prior to starting the tracking of any of the identified victims in the case.
yes.
There's the service van he parked next to on that panning camera on the video.
Yes.
And at some point before he leaves his vehicle, you start to track every one of the victims that you were able to identify on video on your map, correct?
Yes. Your office provided me names of individuals to track. I reviewed different videos to identify these individuals based on description provided to me, and then plotted them on the map using the various camera angles that I could identify them in.
And that's already occurred on here. We've started to see markers appear, and I think it's hard to see. So I'm going to actually zoom in. Still not, unfortunately, I can't zoom any more than that on this particular slide, but can you just walk through the jury what they're seeing now that there are markers appearing on your map?
Yes, you will see that there are orange dots, yellow dots, and a lime green color. Those identify different individuals. The orange dots represent individuals who will be shot and killed. The yellow dots represent individuals the DA's office provided me to track, who are named individuals for attempted murder. The lime dot represents individuals who are neither named a individual shot or part of the attempted charges.
And again, we see people moving about according to the locations as identified on the video. We see the green dot coming out the east entrance and moving towards the outside of the vestibule. We see other individuals moving around in the front of the store. In your product, you have the ability to zoom in, and in many of these, as we move through this, this was really this first slide designed to just be an overview of that initial 5 minutes in the parking lot. As we move on, there'll be zooms and pans on your map in order to give the jury an opportunity to actually read the names of the victims and get a clearer picture inside the store.
Right. This first 5 minutes was just to fill the time. Obviously, things were happening in the supermarket, so I animated this and left it wide just so you could see the full scene.
And when you say the full scene, you were looking to be able to incorporate in your map not only the location of the defendant and his vehicle in the parking lot, but all the individuals inside the store. So it was difficult to really zoom in at any significant level.
Yes.
We see people continuing to move about. Again, the video continues to play to the right. And I'm going to move on to the next slide. Is this one of those examples of where you've zoomed in and created a still of your animation to show the location of individuals at this point in time?
Yes.
What time was this particular image, or what time were the individuals in these locations?
Based on the video references of several video files, looking at individuals where I could clearly identify them based on the notes provided to me, this is 2:24:30, which is 2:24 in the afternoon. The 30 represents seconds and the last number represents frames. So this is 2:24.
So at 2:24:30, this still shot indicates that victim Julie Keaton, victim Kajendra Mala are both at register 12 assisting Lynn Murray.
Yes.
And again, this is all based on what you observed in the many videos that you sifted through, sorted through, and reviewed in order to place these folks at these locations.
Yes.
Again, we have a zoom at this point of the parking lot where the defendant is next to the service vehicle where the first victim was killed. And to demonstrate the zoom animation, on what I just played, that initial marker turned from a circle to a blue oval. What were you denoting in your graphic whenever you changed a circle from the original color of orange to that blue oval?
Sure. The blue oval represents the moment in time that the individual was shot and killed. That information was given to me by the investigator.
Judge, with respect to this witness, I have no further questions.
Any questions?
Judge, no cross-examination.
All right, thank you. You may be excused, and may he be released from the subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
No objection.
Okay, and you're released from your subpoena. Thank you.
Your Honor, the people call Sarah Cantu to the stand.
Counsel, if you can approach, I just need some clarification.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please face me and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that any testimony you provide shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your full name, spelling your last name for the record?
My name is Sarah Cantu, C-A-N-T-U.
Can you please walk the jury through your professional background and experience?
Sure. I was hired by the Boulder Police Department in January of 2001. They put me through a police academy at Arapahoe Community College. And after successful completion of the police academy and receiving my post-certification, I came back to Boulder, attended a mini academy. So at the police academy, you learn how to be a cop in Colorado, a Boulder police or a Colorado police officer. At the mini academy, you learn policies and procedures and municipal code for Boulder specifically. After the mini academy, I did a 14-week field training program where I was paired with a senior officer who evaluated everything I did for those weeks. And eventually, after completing that program successfully, I was released and became a solo officer. I worked patrol for the rest of that year, so all of 2001 until December of 2010. Most of my career was nights and weekends. I did do a year as a DUI officer, and I did a year and a half, about 2 years, as a plainclothes officer on the target crime team. In 2010, I applied for, tested, and was selected as a detective for the investigations section. I became a general crimes detective in January of 2011 and remained in that position investigating crimes involving property until October of 2013. And at that time, I became a major crimes detective. And I remained in that position until late November of last year, November of 2023, at which time I retired from the Boulder Police Department and came to the district attorney's office here as a senior investigator.
Thank you. You mentioned working in the major crimes unit as a detective for those years before you retired from Boulder PD. Can you tell the jury what that means in terms of what kinds of cases and what your work involved on a daily basis, please?
Yes. So as a major crimes detective, I investigated crimes involving people. A majority of my caseload was sexual assault and death investigations, but I also worked robberies, physical assaults, assaults with weapons, and other crimes involving weapons. Kind of as the name indicates, we investigated the major cases that came in to Boulder County. My day would revolve around a case would be assigned to me. I would interview witnesses, victims, suspects. I would write reports based on that. I would write affidavits for search warrants and arrest warrants. Any information that came in, I would review and I would build a case. And if charging was appropriate, I would author an arrest warrant and then follow that case through prosecution.
And then you left the Boulder Police Department in November of last year to join the district attorney's office.
That's correct.
What are your duties and responsibilities as a district attorney investigator in the DA's office?
As a district attorney investigator, I assist more on the back end, post-arrest investigations, and assist with preparing for trial. We also do other investigations that may come in that require the district attorney's office to work on.
Were you working as a detective for major crimes at the Boulder Police Department in March of 2021?
Yes, I was.
And you were part of the law enforcement response to King Soopers on March 22nd, 2021.
I was.
Just briefly tell the jury what your involvement in that initial response included.
It was a normal day of work for me. So when the call came out that there was an active shooter, I responded to the scene with 4 other detectives. By the time we got there, we handled a perimeter position. So we were maintaining a perimeter around the scene. We remained in that position until the defendant was taken into custody, at which time we all transferred into an investigative mode. We left the scene and started the investigation process.
And for the record, that's the King Soopers located at 3600 Table Mesa Drive in Boulder County, Colorado.
It is, yes.
And you mentioned switching to an investigatory capacity after leaving the scene. What do you mean by that?
So when we were on scene, we had very focused responsibilities. We were a perimeter unit. We wanted to know who was coming in and coming out of that scene. When we left the scene and began the investigative process, at that point, I was assigned as a liaison to the Boulder County investigative team. And all of us got assignments to where we were assigned either interviews, crime scene, speaking with the involved officers, gathering evidence from involved officers, and working with the teams. There were a lot of officers that were there, so it was working with all of the teams together.
On March 22nd of 2021, approximately how many detectives and investigators responded either from the Boulder Police Department or other agencies to work on the investigation?
I don't know if I know a clear number. There were people there from Boulder PD, even detectives that were not on duty responded. Boulder County Sheriff's Office was there. Longmont PD had detectives there. Erie, Louisville, Lafayette, CUPD had detectives. CBI came out, FBI came out, ATF, and Secret Service.
And did that continue over the days that followed?
Yes.
Where were the investigators working out of during that period of time?
Out of the training rooms at the Boulder Police Department.
How long did the first phase of the investigation go for?
I believe it was about 2 weeks.
How was the investigation divided up over those initial 2 weeks?
It was divided into work groups. So some people were doing witness interviews and following up on any tips that came in. And those would include victims of people that were in the store. Some people were at the crime scene and doing crime scene investigation out at the scene. There were people that were working on digital evidence, so cell phones, computers, all of that sort of stuff. There were people interviewing the officers that were involved, that were in the scene throughout the event. People were doing background investigation on the defendant, doing neighborhood canvases on the defendant's residence, as well as the neighborhood around the scene on Table Mesa.
So different teams for each topic area as part of the investigation.
Correct.
And after that initial 2-week period, did the investigation continue beyond that?
Yes.
But during that initial 2 weeks, all these agencies have investigators and detectives working out of the Boulder Police Department.
That's correct.
How long would you say the investigation went on for, even beyond that 2-week period?
Until just recently. I mean, it'll continue as any new information comes in, we'll investigate it. But a majority of the information was in the initial phases. However, we continued to get new information even in July of this year.
And the jury is hearing parts of each one of the topic areas that you've discussed here.
That's correct.
Who was assigned as the lead investigator on the criminal investigation and prosecution?
I was.
And when did that take place?
I was assigned in the early morning hours of March 23rd, 2021, before I went home.
And have you been the lead investigator on the case since March 23rd, all the way up to and including today?
Yes.
Can you just briefly describe for the jury your work on this case in the year since it happened?
Yes, I've reviewed all of the information that's come in. So police reports, surveillance footage, body cam, in-car camera, all of that information I've reviewed. All of the interviews I've either watched videos of or read reports documenting. I've participated in interviews of victims and witnesses. I wrote the affidavit for arrest warrant. I've written many police reports related to this case. There's been a lot over the last 3.5 years. That's what I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, and we're going to go through all that and some more as we go through your testimony this morning.
Okay.
And as your understanding, you're going to be testifying 2 or 3 times during the course of this trial, with this being your first.
That's correct.
And from your work on the case from day one all the way through to today, are you familiar with the 10 victims of murder?
I am.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked as people's 42 through 51 for identification. Do you recognize what those are photographs of?
I do.
And what are they?
These are photographs of the murder victims.
I'm going to go through each one in just a moment, but do those photos fairly and accurately depict how they looked when they were alive? And these are photos provided to you in the district attorney's office by family members and loved ones for each victim.
Yes,
Your Honor, at this time, people move 42 through 51 into evidence.
No objection.
They're admitted.
And I'm going to ask you just a few questions about each one, okay?
Okay.
And we could turn on the screen, Your Honor, and publish 42, please. Who is this?
this is Nevin Stanisic,
How old was Nevin Stanisic when he was killed?
23,
And do you know where Nevin was living?
Lakewood.
And he was living with his family.
He was, yes.
How was Nevin Stanisic employed when he was killed?
He worked for KD Service Group.
Do you know what he was doing at King Soopers that day?
I do. He was working, KD Service Group is a restaurant equipment sales. They do sales, repair, and maintenance. And he was at the store at the Starbucks working on the espresso machine.
And for each one of the victims, I'm going to also ask, were their family members interviewed by law enforcement at some point during the course of the investigation?
Yes,
And have you met many of their family members during the course of this investigation and prosecution?
yes.
We're going to turn to Exhibit 43. Who do we have in Exhibit 43, Investigator Cantu?
This is Kevin Mahoney,
How old was Kevin Mahoney when he was killed?
61.
And what was Kevin Mahoney doing at King Soopers that day?
He was shopping.
Do you know where Mr. Mahoney was living
He was living in South Boulder.
with his family?
Yes,
And how was he employed, if you know?
he was retired.
We're going to turn to Exhibit 44. Who do we see in Exhibit 44, Investigator Cantu?
This is Trelona Bartkowiak,
How old was Trelona Bartkowiak when she was murdered?
49.
What was she doing at King Soopers that day?
She was shopping to pick up things for her fiance who was feeling ill.
To your knowledge, what was Trelona Bartkowiak doing for work at that point in her life?
She owned a shop just off of Pearl Street,
So
clothing store.
where did Trelona Bartkowiak live?
She lived in Louisville.
We turn to Exhibit 45. Who do we see in Exhibit 45, Investigator Cantu?
Ricky Olds,
How old was Ricky Olds when she was murdered?
she was 25.
What was Ms. Olds doing in King Soopers that day?
She was working.
And do you know where Ms. Olds was living at the time?
She was living in Lafayette.
And have you had the opportunity to meet the family of Ms. Olds?
I have, yes.
Going to turn to Exhibit 46. Who do we see on the screen in Exhibit 46?
This is Denny Stong,
How old was Denny Stong when he was murdered?
20.
Where was Denny Stong living?
He was living in South Boulder with family.
How was he employed at the time he was killed?
He worked maintenance at King Soopers at that store.
Was he working on that day?
He was not.
Exhibit 47, who do we see in this picture?
This is Lynn Murray,
How old was Lynn Murray when she was killed?
62.
Where was Ms. Murray living at the time of this incident?
In South Boulder with family.
Do you know what Ms. Murray was doing at King Soopers that day?
She was working.
For whom?
She worked for Instacart and was shopping for other people.
And have you had the chance to meet Ms. Murray's daughter and other family members?
I have.
We turn to Exhibit 48. Who do we see in Exhibit 48, Investigator Cantu?
Terry Liker,
How old was Terry Liker when she was killed?
51.
Where was Terry Liker living at the time of her murder?
In South Boulder.
Who was she living with?
I believe her family.
And have you met her parents?
I have.
And What was Terry Liker doing at King Soopers that day?
She was working as a courtesy clerk.
I'm going to turn to Exhibit 49. Who do we see in Exhibit 49?
This is Jody Waters,
Same sort of questions here. How old was Ms. Waters when she was killed?
65,
Where was Jody Waters living?
South Boulder.
And have you had the opportunity to meet some of her family members?
Yes.
Exhibit 50, who do we see?
Suzanne Fountain,
How old was Suzanne Fountain at the time of the mass shooting?
59,
Where was Suzanne Fountain living?
Broomfield, Colorado.
And what was she doing at King Soopers that day?
She was shopping. Her partner had a medical procedure the next day, so she was preparing for that.
And do you know how Ms. Fountain was employed?
She worked as a Medicare insurance agent.
And then Exhibit 51, who do we see in this picture?
This is Eric Talley,
How old was Eric Talley at the time of his murder?
51,
Where was he living?
Littleton.
Was he living with family?
Yes,
And do you know how many kids Eric Talley had?
7.
Had you had the opportunity to work with Eric Talley?
Yes,
And that was during his time with the Boulder Police Department?
yeah, we worked together for 11 years.
Okay. And we could take down the screen, please. Fair to say there was a very lengthy investigation, as you've described, into this mass shooting.
Yes,
Any connection ever identified between the defendant and any of these people whatsoever?
none that we were able to find.
So each one of the murder victims was a complete stranger to the defendant?
Yes, that's correct.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about your work on the investigation, okay?
Okay.
In preparation for today, but also through the course of the investigation, you reviewed witness interviews, statements, reports, video recordings, and 911 recordings.
Yes,
And did you assist in reviewing and analyzing all the video that was collected in connection with the investigation,
I did. Yes,
including video from inside and outside the store, as well as body worn camera video?
yes.
And for what reasons were you reviewing the video?
As part of the investigation to know what happened. And as we were going through, we knew that there were people that we had not identified that were victims or potential victims. So we watched it with an eye to identifying people that we had not yet talked to.
So can we break that down a little bit?
Sure.
Just tell the jury what that meant in the days that followed the shooting. You said identified people who were victims, or you saw people were victims that were not identified.
Right.
And then you would look to see if you could identify them. Can you tell the jury what you were doing?
So we were watching the footage to see where the shots were being fired, where the victims were, the deceased victims were in relation to where everybody else in the store was. And as we watched that, in the early days, I didn't have reports yet. So I was trying to go through and identify just on some handwritten sheets that investigators were using, if I had a named individual that survived that was in that line of fire of the individuals that did not survive.
And if you had someone who is not named or identified, what steps would you take?
We would reach out and do an interview with them. We would locate them and interview them.
And is it fair to say some people had escaped from King Soopers without their identification being provided to law enforcement?
Yes,
And then you would watch the video, see a person who is in or near the line of fire, and you would work to track down who those people were?
correct.
And how would you do that?
In some cases, we tracked them through the store to see what cars they got into and find license plates or partial license plates to identify the individuals. In some cases, We used the phone number that people put in for their shopper's card to track that back to find who that number associated with. If we talked to someone who said, I went to the store with my roommate and we only talked to one person, we'd track them down trying to find the second person.
So for example, if you saw someone in the video who dove to the ground, but later escaped without being identified or spoken with by law enforcement, you would track all their movements in an effort to figure out who that person was.
That's correct.
And then you'd reach out to them and interview them.
Correct.
How much video do we have in this case?
Hours and hours and terabytes. There's surveillance footage from inside the store. There's surveillance footage outside the store that's associated with King Soopers. There's surveillance that's associated with other stores and businesses and homes surrounding the store. We have body cam. We have in-car camera or dash cam. We have interview recordings. We have surveillance from the defendant's house and the neighborhood surrounding there. So there's hours and hours and hours of videos.
And as the lead investigator, have you reviewed all of this video?
Yes.
And you mentioned too, that I think the jury would know what you're talking about, but just to follow up, what do you mean by in-car cameras?
In-car cameras are also known as dash cams. They're mounted inside police patrol vehicles, both facing forward and facing back. Some cases, the ones that are rear facing face into the back seat where someone would be sitting. In other cases, they shoot all the way out the window. The view is all the way out the back window.
And body worn cameras?
Body worn cameras are just like they sound. They are fixed to the person of the officer. And at that time, I believe most of our patrol officers were wearing them, if not all of them were wearing them.
And we'll talk more about this the next time you testify, but just generally speaking, how do body worn cameras work?
So they can either be manually activated by a series of button pushing on the camera. Generally, it's worn at the center mass, the center of the body. And then you can manually stop them also. They can also be automatically activated with lights and sirens. Once the event is done, you can manually stop those cameras and then they would dock them in a charging station, at which time those videos would be uploaded to a secure cloud-based system.
Okay, and we're going to talk more about that a little later on. But for some of the body worn camera videos in this case, they were activated, the devices were activated when officers were turning on their lights and sirens.
That's correct.
And to your knowledge, all the video, everything you've just described was provided to the defense.
Yes.
In other cases we've worked, let's say a murder case, for example, if you had 2 security videos and 4 body worn camera videos that came from different officers that responded, would or have you in your experience provided all of that to the jury?
If it's smaller, probably not all of it, but portions of most of it.
And given the content of the videos in this case, rather than showing all those many videos from different perspectives, what have we done here?
We have created this master exhibit that shows portions of the whole scene throughout the entire event.
And the jury already heard from Mr. Subin, but have you been involved in and aware of the FBI working with the district attorney's office and the lead investigator to put together this one exhibit?
Yes.
And have you reviewed it with an eye towards all the other work you've done, the interviews, your review, your crime scene analysis, and so on?
Yes, I have.
And are you aware that there are a number of victims and witnesses who would strongly prefer not to see the video?
Yes.
And you're going to show the jury through the exhibit that Mr. Subin already put into evidence, different things that were collected as part of this investigation.
That's correct. Yes.
Just one moment. Huh? Fair to say this exhibit is large in terms of computer storage?
It is. Yes.
And if we could publish for the jury, please. Mr. Subin just testified about this first picture we have on the screen here, but just to get the jury oriented to the work you've done in connection with this case, can you just tell us what we see of significance on this slide, please?
So one of the main areas of significance is the King Super store in the video portion of it. The red brick that you see kind of the corner of. Is it okay if I stand up?
Your Honor.
Yes, of course.
So in this video here, this corner is the northwest corner of the King Supers. So on the diagram, it would be this corner right here. This is Table Mesa going eastbound. This is Table Mesa going westbound. And this is the main driveway, and this is the west driveway into the King Supers parking lot. So the top of the screen is the south, the bottom of the screen is the north, east is on the left, and west is on the right.
The jury heard some testimony the other day from Sergeant Wise. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
And he testified about the defendant's car being seen going on to Gillespie Drive.
yes.
Where is Gillespie Drive on this exhibit?
So Gillespie Drive is on the south end of King Supers. It's right behind, but it kind of winds around. So you can actually access it from Table Mesa, but then it curves around the back of King Supers.
And you've seen the video and you're aware that the defendant's car was seen driving past King Supers and then making a left onto Gillespie Drive before returning to King Supers.
That's correct.
And that's what Sergeant Wise covered the other day.
Yes.
So I'm going to this is going to start to play here. I'm just going to let this play. The jury's already seen it, but I'm going to ask you just a few questions as we go through it.
Okay.
As we start to take the jury through this exhibit, is it consistent with everything else that you've seen and worked on in connection with the case?
It is, yes.
The fuchsia dot or purple dot represents who?
The defendant.
And the yellow dots the jury will see represent whom?
Victims of attempted murder,
The orange dots represent what?
victims of murder,
And when they're orange, as we just saw in that picture there, what's their current state?
living.
And after they're killed, what color do they become?
They become a light blue oval.
And here we see on the left-hand side of the screen, the purple dot in the black car and the orange dot in the white van.
Correct.
And who is in the white van?
Nevin Stanisic.
And as the video continues, do we see the KD service van at one point in the security video?
We do, it's right there.
And what was Nevin Stanisic doing at that point in time?
He was sitting in his driver's seat. He had a tablet, and he was on the phone with Johnny Shan.
And I'm going to move ahead here. So Mr. Subin touched on this, but I want to follow up with you as the lead investigator. We see the orange dots who represent people who are going to be killed.
Correct.
And then we have the yellow dots representing, as you said, victims of attempted murder.
Correct.
Can you just point to the different yellow dots and tell us who they represent?
At register 12, at the top here is Mahendra Mala. Below that dot is Julie Keaton. To the right is Kimberly Breckus. And they're at register 10 with Micah Hong. At register 9 is Tasia Beresford.
And then the lime green dot.
The lime green dot is Clint Ponsford, who is an employee.
And the yellow dots are individuals who you identified as being in or near the line of fire.
Correct.
And the lime green dot is someone who is not either fired upon or in the line of fire.
Correct.
And what do we see here in this slide?
So this slide is the animation of the parking lot. The black Mercedes with the defendant in the driver's seat, the white work van with Nevin Stanisic in the driver's seat.
What did the defendant do upon leaving his car?
He ran around the back of the vehicle and went between the passenger side of his car and the driver's side of the van and engaged with Nevin Stanisic, who was seated in the driver's seat of the van.
And what do you mean by engaged with?
He shot at.
Where did he fire in terms of positioning on the van?
Through the driver's side window.
And where and how was Mr. Stanisic positioned at that time?
He was in the driver's seat, as anyone driving would be. He actually had his seatbelt on, and was in that position.
And from your review of the video, as well as the crime scene photos, did he have any opportunity to move or hide at that point?
No.
From how far away did the defendant shoot Mr. Stanisic?
It's very close. The distance between the two cars in a parking space, plus the length of the rifle barrel.
How many times was Mr. Stanisic shot?
He was shot 5 times.
And he was the first murder victim?
He was.
What do we see in this video?
This is the camera across the street showing the defendant running around the back of the car between the two cars and then shooting into the driver's side window of the van.
And what about the woman on the right-hand side of the screen?
So she is reacting to what she's seeing. In this video, she was at the crosswalk preparing to cross the street. Whatever she sees or hears, she backs up, puts her hands towards her head and her mouth. She backs up further. She actually takes cover behind that light pole. And if we were to continue watching this, she would actually duck down behind that light pole.
And that raises a good point. Do we have audio from any of these security cameras? We have audio from the body-worn cameras with law enforcement
That's correct.
and from the dash cams, but none from King Soopers or any other security video.
That's correct.
Do we have a zoomed in clip of what you just described?
Yes, we do.
And have you watched, it's fair to say you've watched this video many, many times.
Many times.
What can you see in that clip?
You can see the defendant around the back of the Mercedes. You can see him approach the window. You can see a person sitting in the seat inside the van. And then you can see the glass break and the person that was there is no longer visible.
Where did the defendant go from there?
From there, he ran east across the parking lot between vehicles.
And you said he ran.
Yes.
Can you describe in more detail what you saw?
No, I'm gonna object at this point. I believe the best evidence is the video. We are gonna watch the video. Response.
Your Honor, Investigator Cantu's watched the video many, many times. These things happen very quickly. I think it's fair for her to briefly touch on what she's going to see to aid the jury in their understanding and their review of this.
Overrule.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So he moves very quickly eastbound. So to the left of the screen, the rifle is in a ready position with both hands on it as he is running. He is moving quickly.
For those that don't use firearms or are not as familiar with firearms, what do you mean by a ready position?
It is shouldered and it's ready to shoot. It is in a position where it's aimed.
Who was the next murder victim that the defendant encountered?
Kevin Mahoney.
Where was Mr. Mahoney at that point in time?
Mr. Mahoney was so this is the west side of the parking lot. He was on the east side of the west side. He was between cars returning his cart.
So we're going to take that in steps, and I'm going to show you this next animation.
Okay.
What does this represent?
This is the defendant running eastbound through the parking lot between the cars.
And then what do we see on the left-hand side of the screen?
On the left-hand side of the screen is Kevin Mahoney, who was in, so he was between the cars and then he runs out into what is the main entrance of the parking lot. So a street. The defendant stopped and braced on a parked vehicle and shot from a stable platform at Mr. Mahoney. At that time, Mr. Mahoney starts to run towards, in the direction of the store. He runs southeast towards that east door, and the defendant chases him.
Two terms that you use that I just want to follow up on, if I may.
Okay.
Braced, what do you mean by braced?
So he stopped and he used the car to make a stable platform for shooting. He's not running, the muzzle isn't bouncing. He's got a stable platform for shooting.
And what's the reason to use a stable platform when you're firing?
Accuracy.
How many times was Mr. Mahoney shot?
He was shot 4 times.
And did he, from your review of everything, have any chance to escape?
No.
And do we have a video clip that captures part of what you just described for the jury?
Yes.
And for this next video, before I play it, was this a security camera that was panning from left to right?
Yeah, it was.
So what's the result in terms of what the jury is going to see?
So it's going to start, you will see a little bit of the screen as the camera pans, as the defendant runs eastbound across the parking lot. You will see Mr. Mahoney as he is kind of out. The only way I can term it is in no man's land. He's kind of in the middle of the road. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to hide behind. And then the camera keeps going as Mr. Mahoney, initially he ducks down with his hands up, but then as he stands up and starts to run, the camera pans past him, so we don't see the rest of that.
And the rest would be him running up and then ultimately being shot and killed.
Correct.
Before I hit play, what is the jury seeing in this photograph?
So this is that camera that is going to pan. Just about middle of the screen in the white circle is the defendant. At the far right end of the screen, you'll see the back end of a car. That's the car that he's going to use to shoot as a shooting platform, to shoot from. There will also be a white pickup that comes southbound between the defendant and Mr. Mahoney as he's shooting at Mr. Mahoney. We heard from Jesse Brown the other day. That's Jesse Brown leaving the parking lot. And right at this stop sign here, you're going to see a golden SUV. I think it was a RAV4 that makes a right or starts to make a right into the parking lot. That's Trelana Bartowiak's vehicle as she starts to pull in to the parking lot.
Sorry. And that individual there who's ducking down and went to his knees is Kevin Mahoney.
Yes.
And from your review of the evidence and other video as well, Mr. Mahoney got back up and was able to actually run part of the way to King Soopers.
Yes, that's correct.
What did the defendant do as Mr. Mahoney was trying to run to King Soopers?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
He chased him.
After chasing down and killing Mr. Mahoney, where did the defendant go from there?
He went towards the east. So for that east entrance of the store, There's a vestibule that has ramps leading both ways. There's a western entrance on the east side, and there's an eastern entrance. He runs towards the western entrance of the eastern door.
Who was the next murder victim that he encountered?
Trelana Bartowiak.
What was she doing at that point, Investigator Cantu?
So I just told you that we saw that she makes the right turn or starts to make the right turn into the west side of that parking lot. She doesn't complete the turn. She backs up onto this main road here, and then she makes a left, and she actually pulls on to that ramp for the west entrance to the store. And she gets out of her car and tries to run up the ramp towards that entrance when she is shot.
And for some of these shootings, were you able to isolate and provide stills of things that were happening throughout?
Yes.
So what is the jury seeing on this screen?
So this is the defendant using that white car to shoot from. You can see the muzzle flash that is in the white circle. And then on the far right side, you can see Mr. Mahoney kind of starting to duck down, his hands by his head.
And I'm going to ask you to take a look at this. And what is the jury going to be seeing in this graphic here?
This is going to be Trelana Bartowiak making that right turn, starting to make that right turn. And I believe it'll also show Mr. Mahoney as he is trying to run away, the defendant shooting him. The dot will turn blue, and then the defendant will focus on Trelana, who gets out of her vehicle. And as he closes, her dot will turn blue.
Do we know what the reason was that Ms. Barkowiak pulled into that area?
We don't.
What's the reason we don't know?
She can't tell us.
And let me hit play here. Is that car representing her car?
Yes.
And then we saw the point at which she was killed on the pedestrian ramp.
Correct.
And do we have video and still photos with regards to that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Before I hit play, just get us oriented to what this this screen, is a little blurry and grainy. What is going to be seen on this particular video?
So this is Nevin's white van in the upper right-hand corner. You can see the white circle. The defendant is in that circle. He is going to continue east across the parking lot. You're going to see the gold SUV turn into, or start to turn onto this main road that is running east and west along the bottom left-hand corner of the screen.
That's her car there.
Yes.
So I'm going to return to this graphic and ask you, where did the defendant go after killing Trelona Barkowiak?
He went through that west entrance of the east door into the vestibule, which is on just below center of the left side of the screen. And then he goes into the store through that entrance.
And specifically, how did he kill Trelona Barkowiak in terms of number of shots and location of shots?
She was shot 2 times. One, she also had stippling on the side of her face, which indicated that it was at least.
Your Honor, 701.
Any response?
In your experience, I can lay a foundation, Your Honor.
Your Honor, she's not qualified as an expert.
Your Honor, I don't believe this is an area that requires expert testimony.
The 401, 403.
Sure. Investigator Cantu,
Yes.
is there security footage showing the defendant killing Trelona Barkowiak?
Yes.
How close was he to her when he shot her on the pedestrian ramp?
He was standing over her.
Thank you. And is that security video that the jury will be shown in another exhibit later in the trial?
Yes.
How old was Trelona Barkowiak?
49.
You mentioned the defendant then started to head to the east doors.
Correct.
And from your work on the case, what's happening inside the store at this moment in time?
Some people seem to know what's going on and have run. Others are not sure, and their attention is drawn to this east side of the store. Like I said, some people have already left. Some people have already run out of the scene, run out of the store, and are headed toward the south of the store. But people in front, these people in front didn't seem to recognize what was happening, though their attention was drawn to this east side.
And with this slide, I'm just going to ask you with the pointer, if you would, to walk us through for the jurors that may not be able to see the names, who is positioned where as the defendant's about to head to the east doors.
So the defendant is purple. What is the purple dot? This is the east entrance. Just inside the east entrance is Denny Stong. A little bit further west is Ricky Olds. South of Ricky Olds is Angela Peacock. And then further west, along the front of the store at check CN 12, is Lynn Murray here and Alejandra Mala there. At register 10, which is further west, is Kimberly Breckus and Micah Hall. At register 9, which is again further west, is Tasia Beresford, Patrick Cruz, and Terry Laker.
And when the defendant enters the store, is he firing from east to west?
Yes.
And for a number of the victims, and we'll go through it, that were shot, the bullets enter and then exit their body and continue west.
Yes.
And from your work on the case, we were able to identify victims of attempted murder who were either fired upon or in the line of fire.
Yes,
And those are the individuals who appear in those yellow dots there.
that's correct.
And did you find damage or was damage found by the evidence response team as well as the crime scene analyst reflecting the rounds that continued on and nearly hit others in the front of the store?
Yes.
So Angela Peacock, for example, she's on the left side of the screen.
Correct.
Where is she when the defendant opens fire inside those east doors?
So she is in the middle of the east side self-checkout. Just kind of in this position, she is directly behind Ricky Olds, but by the time he enters, she is diagonal southwest behind Ricky Olds.
And what is she wearing?
She's wearing a bright yellow, like traffic vest.
The bullet that hit Ricky Olds, did that travel out the back of Ricky Olds' body?
Yes,
And was that in the direction of where Angela Peacock was located?
yes.
How were you able to determine that, Investigator Cantu?
We watched the footage and we have seen the damage along the front of the store and the impacts that bullets that continued on made.
And she's the victim in count 11.
She is a victim. I don't know which count.
Okay.
But she is a named victim.
Kahendra Mala. Where is Kahendra Mala on the screen?
So he's at register 12. So he's the next yellow dot to the right or the west.
And where was he in terms of shots being fired from east to west by the defendant?
He was west of where the defendant was shooting from.
Also in the line of fire where bullets were passing by and ultimately ending up?
Yes.
And how were you able to determine that as to Mr. Mala?
Again, based on damage in and around the front of the store. He's on that path.
And for the court reporter, I'm referring to count 14. Kimberly Breckus, where is Ms. Breckus here?
She's at register 10.
And where was Ms. Breckus when the shooter began firing from east to west across the front of the store?
She is west of him. And she's near the front, this front main east-west aisle at the front of the store.
And what was she doing at that point?
She was checking out her groceries.
Where was she in relation to the bullets being fired by the shooter?
She's in that same line, that same path.
And how do you know that?
From the crime scene and from reports.
Was there anything struck by a bullet directly near Ms. Breckus?
Yes.
What was that?
There are partitions. So because this was COVID, everything had those plexiglass partitions separating it. And there are partitions that were damaged from projectiles going through them.
And those are projectiles passing by these attempted murder victims.
Yes, that's correct.
Where is Ms. Breckus now?
She is deceased.
And to your knowledge, how did she pass away?
Section 41403.
What's her, why don't you come on up? Rephrase the question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Cantu, based on your work on this case, are you aware that Ms. Breckus passed away after this incident from natural causes not related to the shooting?
Yes.
Let's turn to Micah Huang. What was Micah Huang doing when the defendant started firing from east to west?
He was the cashier at register 10, and he was checking Kimberly Breckus, checking out her groceries.
And what led you to determine that Micah Huang was within the line of fire of those bullets going east to west?
Again, the crime scene investigation and the impact and the patterns from the trajectory investigation.
And that'll be information that the jury is hearing from another witness with the FBI.
Yes, that's correct.
And that includes damage to plexiglass, at register 7.
Yes.
Tasha Beresford. This is with regards to count 19. Where was Tasha Beresford when the shooter began firing east to west?
She was the cashier at register 9.
What was she doing when the shots began being fired?
She was checking out Patrick Cruz.
And Patrick Cruz was the older gentleman, and I'll come to him in a moment, actually, but the older gentleman who the jury heard from the other day.
That's correct.
And was she also downrange and in the line of bullets being fired in that direction?
Yes, she was.
With regards to Mr. Cruz, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about him before we move on. Was he interviewed a number of times about the incident of the King Soopers?
Yes, he was.
And when was the most recent time prior to him testifying at trial?
July 15th of this year.
And who met with him on July 15th of this year?
You and I,
Where was that interview conducted?
at your office here in the building.
And how did he appear on that date?
He appeared fine. He walked normally. He was not using a walker. There was nothing out of the ordinary when I saw him that day.
And when you met with him, or when we met with him on that day, did he have a chance to review the reports in which contained his interviews as well as the diagram that he had drawn?
He did, yes.
And what did he indicate about the reports in the diagram?
He indicated that they were as he remembered them when he gave them back in March of 2021.
And when Mr. Cruz came into court the other day, you mentioned he was using a walker.
Yes.
What was your reaction?
Objection 401, 403.
Sustained.
Did he appear different in court than he did just back on July 15th?
He did, yes.
With regards to Mr. Cruz, this harkens back to something you said earlier. How did you first come to identify Mr. Cruz as a victim of attempted murder?
So we watched the surveillance footage. We got some cameras sooner than we got others. So the cameras that are directly above the scenes, directly above the cash registers, we didn't get those until a couple of days later. We had all of the rest of the footage right after the shooting. When we watched all of the surveillance footage and saw him escorted out with law enforcement, and when we saw him go down in those overhead cameras, he gets down, he kneels down, then goes down, and he just lays there for a really long time. We recognized that he was in the store for a very lengthy period of time. As we were watching, like pretty much frame to frame to frame, we noticed that as he is going down, there are impacts, or there is an impact that goes through the plexiglass right behind his head. And that he just lays there for a really long time. So when we realize that he has been in the store, I then start going back to see who was interviewed, and if anyone kind of matches the description of what I've seen. Again, at that point, I didn't have reports. So I'm going off of handwritten notes that detectives that did the interviews made. And I determined that he was interviewed in an initial triage interview the night of the shooting, but it wasn't a thorough recorded interview like we would want for a named victim.
So what'd you do then?
We requested that a team go out and interview him at his residence.
And did that happen?
It did.
I'm going to turn to the next slide here, and I'm going to ask you to tell the jury about Casey Taylor and Hayden Steele, who for the court reporter are counts 12 and 13.
So Casey Taylor, who is on the left with the cash in his hand, and Hayden Steele, who is on the right with the card in his hand. They are at self-checkout on the east end. There are 3 registers on both sides of that aisle. They are at the very first register on the west side of that east aisle. It's register 17. So they are checking out at that register. And again, they are diagonal behind where Ricky Olds was shot.
And also in the line of fire from projectiles fired by the defendant.
That's correct.
And the defendant entered through the east doors.
Yes.
Where was he in relation to Casey Taylor and Hayden Steele when the defendant came in the east doors?
He's again diagonal, maybe 20, as a guess, 20 feet away.
That brings us to this next still photograph. What do we see in this photograph?
So this is the east side of the store. So the red circle indicates that that is where the defendant will be seen. Those are the east doors coming into the store. Along the back wall is customer service. In the yellow is Angela Peacock. Slightly in front of her in the black jacket is Ricky Olds. And to the left of that is Denny Stong. So the cash register numbers are 22 and 21 and 19. Casey Taylor and Hayden Steele were at 17. So it's 2 up from there.
2 up, you mean up in what direction?
2 to the south of where 19 is.
So to the right of where we see 19 in the photo.
Correct.
If you have a good place to stop, you can keep going. Just pick it as we move along for our afternoon break.
Do you have a preference, Your Honor?
You just pick a spot.
Okay, thank you. And what time is it according to the timestamp in this photograph?
2:30:34.
So what does this graphic or animation capture?
So this is going to show the defendant making entry into the store and the location of where everybody is as he makes entry. And this is 1 second before that. So this is 2:30:33.
And who's the first murder victim inside the store?
Ricky Olds.
Where was Ms. Olds when the defendant entered the store on the east side?
She was right near the last check stand for self-checkout. It's like checkout 22, heading towards the east, excuse me, heading towards the east doors.
And can you describe what happened?
She is walking to the east doors. As she approaches, she kind of does a head tilt, and then the defendant runs in and shoots her.
How far away from Ricky Olds was the defendant?
I would say 10 feet and closing because he ran towards her as he shot.
How long from the time the defendant's inside the east doors to the time that he shoots and kills Ricky Olds?
Approximately 1 second.
Did she have any chance, based on your review at all, to run and hide?
No.
And how many times was she shot?
Once.
And where specifically was she shot?
She was shot in the right side of her chin.
And that's the shot that then exited her body on the backside?
Yes.
And does this animation that I just played capture what you just described?
Yes.
And what do we see happening with the yellow dots now that have moved up on the screen or south in the store?
They're starting to head to the south. People are running at this point.
And how about people on the right-hand side of the screen?
Some people are ducking down. These folks initially kind of duck down. Julie Keaton runs south.
Who's the next murder victim?
Denny Stong.
And where is he on this particular slide?
He's right at the bottom of check stand 19 on the east checkout.
What did this video capture based on your review of it prior to trial?
That shows the defendant making entry into the store, shooting shooting Ricky Olds, and then immediately turning and firing at Denny Stong, who is running westbound.
And is that shown in this animation or graphic?
Yes.
What does this still photograph capture?
This is the muzzle flash as he is firing at Ricky.
And now how are other individuals within the store reacting at this point based on your review of all the video?
People are running, people are scrambling to get away.
What do we see in this slide?
So bottom left corner is Ricky Olds. In the center, in the yellow jacket, is Angela Peacock. As she starts to run away, she trips and falls, so she's starting to fall there. At the top of the screen, under the timestamp, is Hayden Steele, and to the right of him, still kind of at the check stand, is Casey Taylor.
And you mentioned Ricky Olds. Can you just specify where she could be seen in that photograph?
She's in the bottom left-hand corner.
And that's as she's being shot.
Correct.
And we're going to take a couple minutes with this animation and graphic just to get us oriented. So we have Ricky Olds is now represented by what?
A blue oval.
Which signifies?
She's dead.
And then we have people on the right-hand side of the screen. And going from west to east, can you just walk us through where people are positioned as the defendant shooting east to west?
So west to east, the person furthest west is Jody Waters, and she's at west check stand number 3. Next to her is James Graham. He is also at west self-checkout number 3. At west self-checkout number 4 are Nick Edwards and Sarah Moonshadow. On aisle 6, Michael Fong has started to run south. At check stand 9, Patrick Cruz is still here. As I said, he will lay down flat and remain in this position. Terry Laker has moved to the west side of the check stand. Kimberly Brekas and Tasia Beresford are both in this vicinity just above register 9, and they are going to start heading south. Julie Keaton is also headed south. She's above check stand 10. Kahendra Malla is at register 12, and he is basically crouched down right at the front of the check stand. He sits and stays there for a minute or two. Lynn Murray is with him. She's also crouched down in this position at this time. Denny Stong has started running westbound, and he is at check stand 15 headed west. Angela Peacock has started running south. Casey Taylor has curled around the front of this check stand, and he takes cover, ducks down in front up here. So at the south of self-checkout 617. And then Hayden Steele has run south on check stand, aisle 12.
Couple of follow-up questions for you. Kahendra Malla, based on your review of the video, what is Kahendra Malla going to be doing in these following seconds and minutes?
He stays here for quite a while, kind of moves around the check stand area, depending on where he's hearing things happening, but eventually he will run down and end up in the chip aisle with Dr. Sheets.
You mentioned James Graham. He's the gentleman who testified last week.
Correct.
And is he depicted in this still photograph?
He is, yes.
And what evidence did you find in the course of the investigation regarding Mr. Graham almost being hit by gunfire?
So he is, based on his interview, talked about hearing glass breaking, and as he is walking out of the store and the shots are being fired from the east to west, the glass for the light above check stand 3, which is right above his head, breaks, and you can see both he and Jody Waters in the film from above, and debris hit the floor.
And did you also find during the course of your review bullet strikes that had narrowly missed each of them?
Yes.
This is a video sequence of him doing what?
He's checking out his ramen.
And what's the next video sequence going to show?
The next video sequence is going to show him walking out. So it's going to start with Jody Waters. It's going to be above check stand 3. Jody Waters walks into frame and then stops. You will see Mr. Graham kind of walk around her and then the debris, Jody Waters will duck down and you'll see debris hit the ground.
And we know from Mr. Graham that at that point he started running.
Correct.
What was captured there? It was very quick. What was captured there?
You saw just the foot of Mr. Graham run around this or move around this bottom corner of the screen, so the bottom right-hand corner. Near the center of the screen, you see Jody Waters stop and then duck and then move out of the screen. And then you see debris hit the floor after the projectile strikes the light above the checkout.
And you're pointing to a couple of white dots located in the middle of the screen, is that right?
Yes, on the floor.
And is that plastic or glass from those things above the register?
Yes.
Jury will be hearing more about this from another witness, but just to give us a sense of what you were doing to figure out who were the victims of attempted murder, what are we looking at what we have on the screen here?
This is a photo of this west self-checkout. Check stand 1 is on the south end or the left side of the screen. Check stand 2 is near the middle. Check stand 3 is to the also towards the middle. There are impact spots behind the number 3 on the this is the back side of a floral display. So there are impact strikes behind the number 3 on the black surface of the floral display. And then you can see there's some damage on the light for number 3.
And do we see a close-up of that here?
Yes. So number 3, there's the 2 impacts. There's some debris coming from it.
What do we see on this slide, Investigator Cantu?
This is a still frame kind of showing where everyone is before the defendant enters the scene. It's 2:30:25. So it's showing Sarah Moonshadow and Nick Edwards at register 4, James Graham at register 1, Patrick Cruz at number 9. And it's zoomed in so you can't see all the names, but this is Tasia Beresford, that is the cashier at register 9, and Terry Liker, who is the courtesy clerk bagging at register 9.
What does this graphic depict?
This is showing everybody's movements as the defendant enters and starts firing.
And then we have one name that we're seeing for the first time on the graphic on the top right.
In the top right corner is Alon Shakti.
And that's the woman that the jury heard from the other day about falling down.
Correct.
Where is she heading in relation to the west side doors at this point?
She is heading northwest towards the west emergency exit.
What does this still photograph depict?
This depicts the defendant who is in the white circle shooting at Denny Stong, and you can see the muzzle flash. Also, you can see right next to the defendant to the right are the legs of Ricky Olds.
How many times was Denny Stong shot?
3.
After he was initially fired upon by the defendant, what did Denny Stong do?
He ducks dives between two check stands. So it's check stand 15 and 14, and then starts trying to crawl away.
What'd the defendant do at that point?
He pursues him and shoots him.
We're going to come to that video clip in a moment. Does this graphic demonstrate what's about to happen?
Correct.
As well as the movement of other individuals that we see on the screen there?
Correct.
And I'll play the video. From watching this video on many occasions, what did we just see there?
The defendant does a magazine change. After coming back out from between the two registers, he drops a spent or empty magazine, pulls a full magazine from his vest and seats it in the weapon.
And where do you see the magazine on the screen?
The empty magazine that he dropped is on the floor here near the bottom of the screen towards the right.
How was the magazine ejected from the gun the defendant was using?
He drops it. There's an eject button.
And then what did he do?
He then pulled a fresh magazine from his vest and then seated it, put it into the weapon.
And I'm going to show you next a video sequence from a different angle that captures the defendant and Denny Stong, okay?
Okay.
What registers are we going to see Denny Stong try to go through?
15, which is on the left, 14, which is on the right near the middle of the screen.
What's in the white circle there?
That's the defendant pointing his weapon at Denny Stong.
And we'll return to another graphic. And I think after this one is a good time to stop, Your Honor.
Very well.
So we're going to return to this after our lunch break, Investigator Cantu, excuse me. But what does this graphic represent?
This is showing the defendant right after he has changed the magazine. Lynn Murray has started, excuse me, Lynn Murray has started running or trying to get away to the west on the south side of the registers. The defendant comes between the two registers and pursues Lynn Murray.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to now recess for lunch. I want to remind you that until the trial is completed, you must not discuss this case with anyone by any means. This includes members of your family, people involved in the trial, other jurors, or anyone else. If someone approaches you and tries to discuss the trial with you, let me know about it immediately. You must not read or listen to any news reports of the trial. You must not consult any outside references, do any internet search on anything or anyone involved in this case. Finally,